Hello guys and welcome to today's session. Today we are going to talk about ADE or Automated Device Enrollment, formerly known as DEP or Device Enrollment Program with Microsoft Intune.
Now, surprisingly, this is going to be a two-part series because I want to make sure that the video is not going to be too long. So this is what I have in the agenda. First, we are going to talk about the different enrollment methodologies that we have for iOS. And we are going to do a brief comparison between the various modes of iOS device enrollment. Some of them are for personal devices, some of them are for corporate devices. Then we are going to talk about Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager. We are going to talk about its background, what is it, why do we need it, how does it compare with Autopilot, which later on we'll see that it does the same thing for Windows device. We'll then talk about the prerequisites for Apple Business Manager, and then we are going to talk about the detailed background flow of what is happening when a device is getting provisioned via ABM. Then we'll talk about what guided mode is and what await final configuration is while we are setting up Apple Business Manager. We'll talk about the different options that we have while configuring an ABM profile, hence the different configuration options. We'll take a look over the logs that should be collected if we are troubleshooting any ABM related issues. We'll talk about the setup, the configuration that has to be done by the admin so that an ABM device can be enrolled successfully, the different options that we are getting while creating profiles, and then we'll talk about some recommendations that is coming from Microsoft and some recent changes that has happened. And then at the end, we are going to take a look over live demo. So a lot to cover. I'm going to do a part 2 as well for this Apple Business Manager video series. This is what I'm thinking about covering in the part 2 video. The list might grow and I might add some additional things as well. But for now, let's talk about Apple Business Manager, and before we talk about Apple Business Manager, first let's take a look over the various modes of enrollment for an iOS device. There are various ways by which we can enroll an iOS device to any MDM, in this case that MDM being Intune. There is something called device enrollment. This has always existed, and this is a manual methodology of enrollment. The devices can be BYOD or devices can be company owned, and the devices are marked as corporate. Then there is something called user enrollment. This is recently introduced. Devices are marked as personal, containerization of data takes place, and we need managed Apple IDs set up for this. Then there is something called ADE.
ADE is Automated Device Enrollment, which was previously known as DEP or Device Enrollment Program.
So DEP was before, ADE is now. Now to make use of ADE or DEP, we need access to a portal, which we are going to see very shortly. That portal is called ABM or ASM. If you are an organization, it's going to be ABM or Apple Business Manager. If you are a university or school, it's going to be ASM or Apple School Manager. So this ADE or DEP method of enrollment requires access to ABM or ASM. It's a zero-touch enrollment and it is used for enrolling corporate devices. And then we have a methodology called Apple Configurator. And using Apple Configurator, we need a MacBook, and then we can enroll devices to Intune as well. Now, if you are from a Windows background, then I want to give you some Windows enrollment analogy so that this makes sense. So in Windows, we have something called white glove, wherein just like Autopilot, we have something called white glove, right? Wherein first admin pre-provisions a laptop and then he gives it to the user. When he's pre-provisioning the laptop, he's installing some things or doing some setup. Think of Apple Configurator as something like that. Now ADE and DEP, think of this as Autopilot. And then there are user enrollment and device enrollment. So with that analogy in mind, we can break the modes of an iOS device enrollment to Intune into these 4 buckets. And today we are going to focus on this bucket, that is ADE or DEP. Now, before we focus on that bucket, this screenshot is taken from Microsoft's official documentation, which does a comparison between the various modes of enrollment. So if the devices are BYOD, then you can see there is a crossover here, there is a crossover here, meaning for BYOD devices, we are not supposed to use ADE and we are not supposed to use Apple Configurator. For BYOD devices, we are supposed to use user-based enrollment or device-based enrollment. This is the user-based enrollment and the device-based enrollment. So I'm talking about these four options in this diagram. Now, if you have a new device, you should make use of Apple ADE or DEP. If you have an existing device, then you should make use of user or device enrollment, or you can make use of Apple Configurator as well. Why is it so? Because if you want to make use of Apple ADE or DEP, then the device has to be reset. It has to be at the out of the box screen, similar to what we do with Windows Autopilot in case of Windows devices. If you have an existing device and you want to autopilot it, you cannot do that, right? You will have to reset it so that it comes back to the out of the box screen, because that is when the autopilot.dll is triggered. So, or if you have a new device which is at the language and location screen, the first out of the box screen, then autopilot can work on those devices. Similarly, that is what we are stating in point number 2. If you have a new device, then you should use ADE. If you have existing device, then you can make use of Apple Configurator, or you can make use of user or device enrollment. If you want to enroll a large number of devices, then ADE can be used. This is just like if you have large number of Windows devices, you can use Autopilot. Similarly, if you have large number of iOS devices, then you can use ADE or DEP as well. And it is all zero touch, which we are going to see later on. Devices are associated with a single user when you're using ADE. DEM account is not supported. And if the devices are managed by any other MDM, then the device needs to be unenrolled from that MDM first. Well, this point is applicable for irrespective of which mode of enrollment you are using. The device needs to be unenrolled from the previous MDM, and then only it can be enrolled to Intune. You cannot enroll device to two different MDMs, right? At least not with Intune and some other MDM. Well, there is something called Intune integration with third-party MDM, but we are not going to go there. So we are supposed to use ADE when devices are owned by schools and organizations, and for personal devices we are supposed to use this mode of enrollment. If we have userless or kiosk or dedicated device, then we should make use of ADE, and if we want to make the device supervised, we should make use of ADE. So this is just some pointers on when we should make use of ADE and how it compares with when we should probably make use of Apple Configurator or user and device enrollment. So long story short, make use of ADE if 1, it is a corporate device, and 2, if you want to enroll large number of devices, if you want to just directly ship the device from Amazon to the end user. This is the same analogy I used when I was doing the autopilot video. Just think about the power of ADE here. I am an admin. I am going to my seller's website. Let's say I'm going to Amazon.com. I'm placing in an order for 100 iPhones, corporate iPhones. Well, I know that if it's a corporate, we won't be placing orders via Amazon, but I'm just giving you an analogy here that I can go to any e-commerce website, place an order, and the shipping address is going to be of the end user. So the device never comes to the admin. The device directly goes from the seller to the end user. The end user unboxes it. He gets the magical experience of unboxing a device, powers it on, connects it to the internet, and the device is business ready. Just as the out of the box screen goes through, the end user's device gets enrolled to Intune, all the applications come down, and the end user does not have an option of escaping these. It's not optional to the end user, it is mandatory to the end user. So that is how a powerful ADE or a tool like Autopilot can be, wherein think of the days wherein 10 years earlier, the devices would first go to an admin and the admin would provision the device, install an image, install firmware, softwares, applications, and then he would hand over the device to the end user. No longer all of that needs to be done. The end user powers on the device and the device becomes business ready magically all over the internet. How does that happen? We are going to see that later. All right, so just a little bit of background. of what ADE or DEP is. It's a bulk enrollment program for iOS devices, which turns on supervised mode. If you have not worked with DEP or ABM before, but if you have worked with Android or Windows, then you can think of, like in Android, we have something called Samsung's KME or Google's Zero Touch. I have done a video on this as well. You can refer to that. Or we have Autopilot, or we have Intune plus Autopilot. So think of DEP as Autopilot for DEP or ABM as Autopilot for iOS, wherein, or in case of Android devices, what we do is we link Intune with Android Enterprise, right? So we are going to do all that linking, wherein we are going to link our Intune portal with ABM portal. But think of it like a methodology by which we are doing a zero touch deployment, and you can think about the advantages, right? The advantages are just endless because the admin's headache and the overhead is now reduced. Devices like iPhones and iPads can be shipped directly to the users. ABM enables organizations, or ADE enables organizations to easily purchase and distribute content using something called VPP. Now we are going to talk about VPP or volume purchase program in a different nugget, but that is also something that is managed via ADE. And then devices can be purchased directly from Apple reseller, or we can convert a normal device as well. We'll talk about all of that later. And we can control the out of the box of a device and streamline the experience and accept the defaults. So just like when we make an autopilot profile, we can customize the out of the box screen of a Windows device. Similarly, using ADE, we can customize the out of the box screen of an iOS device. When you power on an iOS device for the very first time, there are so many screens that you see, right? Like language, location, connecting to a Wi-Fi, and entering Apple ID and stuff like that. So all these screens can be customized using ADE. And I, as an admin, can choose which of these screens the end user is going to see and which of these screens the end user is not going to see. We can configure a large number of devices, ship them directly to users, and this is used for bulk enrollment, supervised mode, and we can also use this for devices without user affinity. Even mobile number of a device can be collected. Everything in the device is managed, the device is supervised. So when you are enrolling a device as ADE, the device is supervised. Now, supervised is you can think of it as a mode or a functionality which was introduced in iOS 5 when iOS 5 was released. And if a device is supervised, we have more visibility and manageability on the device. We can have controls like silent app installation, restricted access to application, locking MDM enrollments. The end user cannot unenroll it whenever he wants. Doing something like kiosk mode, activating lock bypass, turning off airdrop, and these are just few examples. Now, as on iOS 11 and later, a ADE or DEP enrolled device has to be supervised. Now, before iOS 11, you had an option of doing ADE but not turning on supervision. But now it's no longer an option. If you are doing ADE enrollment, the device is going to be supervised, which makes sense because if it's a corporate device, only then you are doing ADE. And if you're doing ADE, you would want to have as much of control as possible on the device, right? Okay, now I want to do a quick comparison between Autopilot and ABM or DEP. So using both Autopilot and ABM, we can customize the out of the box screen, and we can customize which language, location, and stuff like that are going to come when you power on the device for the very first time. If you want to make use of Autopilot or DEP for a device which is already in use, you will have to reset the device because you need to come back to the out of the box screen, the initial setup screen. Only then Autopilot and DEP are going to take effect. Devices are enrolled as a part of out of the box experience. This happens in both the cases. We have modes like with user affinity and userless in Autopilot, as well as we have that in case of DEP as well. Device needs internet connectivity for DEP as well as for Autopilot. If internet connectivity is not there, then if you're powering on a Windows device, the device will not be autopiloted. It will go through the normal screen and not the customized out of the box screen. The same thing happens with DEP or ABM as well. When you're powering on the device, you have to connect the device to the internet, right? Because everything from Intune and Apple is going to happen only when there is internet connectivity. This is ideal for seamless corporate provisioning, same applicable for ABM or DEP as well for iOS device. And hardware hash or serial number is uploaded. We are uploading in case of Autopilot, and in case of DEP, we are uploading the serial number. Now, in case of Autopilot, no third party services involved. When I say no third party services involved, what I mean is you have Intune, you have a Windows device which is running with Windows operating system. The Windows operating system is run by Microsoft. There is no other service involved. There are Windows services involved, but there are no other third party that is involved. But in case of ABM or DEP, the operating system is what? iOS, which is owned by Apple. Therefore, there is a third party that is involved, which is the Apple Business Manager portal or the Apple School Manager portal. So there is this third party that is also there. So there are three components over here. One is the device, one is the Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager, and one is Intune. And this, they both keep each other in sync, and the policies come down from Intune to the device since Intune is managing the device. And using Autopilot is free and open to all. However, using ABM or DEP is not free. Well, technically it is free, but in order for you to make an account in ABM or DEP, you need to have something called a DUNS number, and getting a DUNS number might involve some cost. Well, at least in India, if you are getting a DUNS number and if you want to get your business registered, then you need to pay some fee. Only then they will do the background verification of your business and register your business and give you the DUNS number. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about ABM or DEP or ASM. So we have already spoken about these terminologies of what ADE or DEP is and what ABM or ASM is. We are going to take a look over those portals very shortly. But first, let's talk about the prerequisite, as in what are the things that we need in order to do a ADE or a DEP enrollment. We need a Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager subscription. And in order to get that subscription, we need to have a DUNS account or DUNS ID or DUNS number. We need to have an Intune subscription and obviously Intune license and obviously an Azure tenant. We need to have iOS devices. We need to set up Apple push notification service. And later on, we are going to see we need to set up a MDM server, an ADE token, and managed Apple ID, which is optional. So we are going to meet all these prerequisites, and we are then going to set up everything. Okay, so first before I get into the schematics of how to set up ADE and how to meet the prerequisite and all of that stuff, I want to talk about the interesting stuff first. I want to talk about what is it that is happening at the back end for a ADE device to get enrolled, and then we'll talk about how to set up APNS and how to set up MDM server and stuff like that, because all of that is heavily documented. Understanding the flow conceptually is most important, and I guess this is not as well documented. So let's understand the flow. So in the diagram, you can see that I have got around 6 or 7 blocks. So let's understand these blocks first. So first, there is this cloud service called ABM or ASM. This is owned by Apple. So think of this like an Autopilot service, but not owned by Microsoft, owned by Apple. Then I have Intune over here. Intune, we already know it's an MDM, it's a SaaS on Azure, and it's also hosted in the cloud. This is the mobile device which I'm planning on powering on. And this is where the admin sits. This is the admin's laptop. Okay. And in the cloud, there is one other service called Apple Activation Service. Now, this service is responsible for activating an iOS device when you power it on and connect it to an internet. Just like in Windows, if you would think there is something called Windows Update for Business service, right? It's another service on cloud which talks with the Windows device. Similarly, Apple has a service called Apple Activation Service hosted on cloud. Devices check in with that service and get themselves activated. ABM or ASM, we have already spoken. This is an instance that ABM that Apple has. It is also there on the cloud. Now, what happens is this is the admin. Okay. Now let me go to the next, or before we go to the next diagram, let me explain this arrow first. So what is happening is this is an iPhone, and obviously this iPhone has a serial number. So this serial number of this iPhone needs to be uploaded to the ABM or ASM instance. Who will do that? The admin will do that. So the admin will, let's say that I'm the admin and I'm placing an order for 1000 devices. So I will have the serial number for those 1000 devices, right? So this is the serial number. So over here you can see that the admin is sending the serial number of all those 1000 devices to his ABM or ASM instance. Okay. All right. So now you see that the devices are present over here. Don't look at anything else. Right now, just look at this block. So inside ABM or ASM, you see this block which contains the devices. These are the devices which were purchased by the admin, and the admin uploaded the serial number of all these devices to ABM or ASM. Okay. Now, let's say that I want to use ABM or ASM with Intune. You have an option of using ABM or ASM with any MDM. Right now, we are going to use it with Intune because we are focused on Intune, but you have an option of using this with any MDM. So if you want to use this with Intune, then you will have to establish a relationship between this ABM instance and your Intune portal. Because if you say that I want to use this with Intune, there are so many tenants in Intune, right? How do you link that with which Intune tenant you want to use it? You do that by creating this link between your ABM instance and your Intune tenant. How do you do that? The way you do that is you create a MDM server in your ABM instance. So this MDM server is containing information about Intune. So the ABM knows where Intune is, but Intune needs to know where ABM is. So in Intune, you create something called a ADE token. So you download something from here and upload that something over here, so that this relationship establishes between ABM and Intune. I'm not going to go into very details of this for now, but for now, just understand it this way, that there is this third party instance called ABM or ASM, which is a portal, and there is this Microsoft's instance called Intune. Both are there in the cloud, and both are owned by me. How do I make sure that my ABM instance talks with my Intune tenant? Because like I have a ABM instance, every company will have their ABM instance. Like I have my Intune tenant, every company will have their own Intune tenant. So I need to link my ABM instance with my Intune tenant. How do I do that? I take something from this portal and I upload it over here, so that this portal knows where this person is. And I take something from here and I upload it over here, so that the vice versa communication channel happens. So the first thing that I do over here is I set up something called a MDM server. This server contains information of my MDM, that where exactly Intune is. I can create MDM server, and that MDM server can point to some other MDM also. That MDM server can point to, let's say, AirWatch, or I can create a MDM server. I can create multiple MDM servers. Let's say the first MDM server points to this Intune instance, that is my tenant. There can be another MDM server which points to some other tenant, right? So this mapping between ABM and Intune is being done by creating a MDM server over here, which is containing information about where the MDM is, and in Intune we are going to create something called an ADE token, and that token is going to be used to communicate with the ABM or ASM instance. We are going to see, just like if you guys remember setting up of APNS, wherein you download a token from Intune portal, you upload it to the Apple's portal, and you download a PEM file, you upload it back to the Intune portal, so that Intune knows where Apple is and Apple knows where Intune is. The same thing is happening over here. Now, what we do is, over here, what we have done is the devices are present in the ABM or ASM instance. Are the devices present? Because the admin has gone to the ABM portal from his desktop or from his laptop, and he has uploaded the serial number. Now, what the admin is going to do in the ABM portal, when he is able to see these devices, he is going to assign this device to a MDM server, and this MDM server is talking with my Intune. This MDM server is mapped with my Intune portal, right? So let's say that I've got 10 devices over here. Out of those 10 devices, I'm assigning 5 devices to this MDM server. The rest 5 devices I can assign to some other MDM server, which is, let's say, talking to AirWatch, right? So it's not necessary that all the devices will have to be assigned to the same MDM server. Let's say that I've got 10 devices, some are managed by Intune, some are managed by some other MDM, or let's say all the devices are managed by Intune but not in the same tenant. So some will be assigned to this MDM server, some will be assigned to some other MDM server which is in reference to some other tenant for Intune. Okay, so in our example we are assigning all these devices to the MDM server, and then what happens is a sync happens between ABM or ASM and Intune. So Intune and ASM, they keep on talking with each other, and these syncs keep on happening so that both are updated. So if I have assigned this device to this MDM server, which is related to my tenant, so all this device information is going to come up over here against my ADE. So when I will go to Intune, I will be able to see all the devices which which are present against my MDM server in my ADE token, and to all these devices I can create a ADE profile and a DEP profile or a ADE profile, and can assign to it. Okay, so this is the setup, this is the background. Right now nothing has happened. The end user has not done anything. Only the admin has placed an order for devices, and he has uploaded the serial number of all those devices to ABM or ASM, and he has assigned these devices to a specific MDM server, which means he has already created an MDM server, and he has already created a ADE token. So ABM and ASM are both talking with each other, and when he has assigned these devices to a MDM server, these devices now show up in the Intune portal as well, because this sync happens. Okay, so over here you can see I have a device which was assigned to ABM or ASM against my MDM server, and then this sync ran, and now this device is visible in my Intune portal. So I can see the serial number of this device, and I have an option of creating a ABM or ASM profile and assigning to it. But you will be able to see all the devices that are assigned to your MDM server in the ABM portal once the sync runs, by coming to this place, by coming to the devices tab inside your token. So you have to go to IS enrollment, and then you have to create a token first. And when you click on your token, all the devices that are there against that token for that ABM server are going to show up over here. All right. So now what happens is, in Intune, you have the device. right? I have the device over here in Intune. Now I need to create something called a ABM, something called a DEP profile or ADE profile. Why do we need to create a DEP profile or a ADE profile? Just like why do we need to create an autopilot profile? Well, what is the end goal here? The end goal is enrolling this iPhone, right? And while we are enrolling this iPhone, the end goal is also customizing the out of the box screen of this iPhone, right? So we want to enroll this device, and as a part of enrollment, we want to customize its out of the box experience, just like what we do in case of Windows. But where are we going to customize that out of the box experience? There has to be some place wherein I have to say that this screen should be visible, this screen should not be visible, right? Wherein I should say that language allocation, that after language allocation, the end user should install the company portal. He should enter his credentials in company portal, or there should be something called setup assistant, or I mean, there should be some place wherein we are determining how the out of the box screen looks like, right? And that is where the ADE profile needs to be created. So ADE, think of ADE profile as the profile which determines how the out of the box screen of a device is going to look like, which means that each device needs to have a ADE or a DEP profile assigned to it. Only then it will undergo a ADE enrollment. Similarly, just like we know that for an autopilot enrollment, each device needs to have an autopilot profile assigned to it. Because how can you autopilot a Windows device if the autopilot profile only is not only assigned to it? Because autopilot profile determines what are the out of the box screen that the end user sees, right? It's the same analogy over here. So we had these devices. These devices were assigned to a MDM server. Okay. And then those devices came up over here as well when the sync rang in the previous step. Now in Intune, what I have done is I have created two profiles. I can create as many autopilot profiles as I want in my Intune portal, right? Similarly, I can create as many ADE profiles as I want, right? Like for example, let's say for some device, I want a specific out of the box experience. For some other device, I want a different kind of out of the box experience. So I will have to create different profiles for that, right? So let's say I have created two profiles, profile 1 and profile 2. And let's say that I've got a lot of devices. I want a specific kind of experience in profile 1 and a different kind of experience in profile 2. So I have made that setting. Now for the devices that need profile 1 kind of experience, I have assigned that to devices 1. Let's say to device 1. And for devices that need different kind of out of the box experience, they are categorized and they are assigned with different kind of profile. Let's in this case called device 2. Now once I have done this assignment of ADE profile to a specific device, once I have done that assignment in the Intune portal, then again a sync runs and Intune informs that to ABM or ASM. So to device 1, I have assigned profile 1, and to device 2, I have assigned profile 2. So you can see the same information is updated over here as well, because Intune has informed ABM or ASM when this sync ran. So even though this mapping of profile 1 to device 1 and profile 2 to device 2 was done in the Intune portal, but ABM or ASM is also informed of the same by this profile sync. So now ABM or ASM knows that device 1 has profile 1 assigned to it, and profile 1 contains this setting, and device 2 has profile 2 assigned to it, which contains this setting. Okay, now let's take a look over the next diagram. Everything in the diagram again is the same. This is the device is shipped directly to the user, and this is the admin. He has uploaded the serial number, the ABM instance, the Intune instance. This is the Apple activation service. Now let's understand what happens step by step. The very first step is that the end user powers on the device and he connects the device to the internet. The moment he connects the device to the internet, the device reaches out to the Apple activation service
and the device gets activated. After the device gets activated, the device identifies that it is not a normal device which is going to undergo a normal out of the box experience. It is in some way a special device. How is it a special device? It's a special device because to this device a profile is assigned, right? So it has to undergo a customized out of the box experience. How does it do that? First, once the device has activated, the device is going to reach out to the ABM instance, the ABM or the ASM instance, and in response, the device is going to be told that, let's say this is device D1. So device D1 is going to be told that you have a MDM server assigned and you have a profile assigned, that is P1, and this is the address of the MDM server. In this case, the address of the MDM server is a specific instance of Intune tenant wherein a specific profile is running, right? So this device receives a response from ABM or ASM. It receives a response and it is now going to make use of this response and reach out to the Intune service. So until now, what has happened? Device has been powered on, it has connected to internet, the device has got activated, and the device has reached out to ABM or ASM, and from there the device has realized that it needs to go to a MDM. It has got the URL to which it has to go to from ABM or ASM, and now it has to go to that URL which is going to be the endpoint of Intune for the next steps to occur. Okay. Now let's take a look over the screens. So the first three screens that we are seeing, that this is going to happen in all the cases, because right now you are not connected to the internet, right? So first is the first it is just telling you hello, and then this is the language screen and the location screen. Once you have selected the language and location, then there is the Wi-Fi screen, and you then connect to the Wi-Fi, you authenticate, and then you see it says that it is activating your phone. So it says that it may take a few minutes to activate your phone. So this is what this step is about. So the language, the location, the selection of Wi-Fi, these were all mandatory screens that is going to happen in all the devices. And then the activation screen happens when the device reaches out to the Apple activation service. Once the activation happens, then the device gets a command telling it that you are not a normal device. This is the MDM that you need to go to. This is the URL where you need to go to in order for you to move to the next step. Okay, we are going to see what that next step is. So over here you see that we see a screen which says that we are going to activate your device. Okay, now what happens after that? The activation has happened. Now the device is going to reach out to the MDM. It has received the information of that MDM over here in this step. So now the device is going to reach out to the MDM, which in this case is Intune. And once it reaches out to Intune's endpoint, Intune is going to push the profile down to the device. So let's say that let's say that there were so many devices. You had profile 1 and profile 2. And to this device, let's call this device 2, we had profile 2 applied over here. So this profile 2 is going to push down to this device from Intune. But before the profile can be pushed down to the device from Intune, there are a lot of things that needs to happen, right? We are going to see what are the things that are going to happen. So this is not a device configuration profile because the device is not enrolled yet. So we cannot push any device configuration profile or compliance profile or application. This is just a payload. Think of this like a autopilot profile which is coming down to the device. And this profile contains the information on how the device's out of the box experience from this point forward is supposed to look like. So over here, now you see a screen called remote management, wherein it tells us that your device is going to be managed by Microsoft Intune. So you get this screen when you get this screen when the device has got this profile from the MDM, and as per the ADE profile, the device is going to be now managed. Therefore, it needs to install the MDM profile in the operating system. So we see the remote management profile. We have to click next over here, and now it says that we are configuring the iPhone. So at this point of time, it installs the MDM profile in the settings, and then it waits for a few other commands. I'm going to talk in detail about what await final configuration is. For now, just think of it like one other screen that is coming in the device while all the processing in the device is happening. Okay, now what happens? Now in the profile that we have created over here, in this profile, we have customized the out of the box screen. We are going to take a look over this profile later on, but in this profile we can select what are the screens the end user is going to see and what he is not going to see, like we do in case of Autopilot, where we can select whether Cortana is going to be visible or not and stuff like that. Similarly, in case of iPhone, we can select what screens will be visible and what screens will not be visible. Like for example, if I have said that location service should be visible, then you will get a screen for location service. If in the profile I have hidden the location service, then this screen will not be visible. The same thing is there for Apple ID as well. If I have said in my profile that Apple ID screen should be visible, only then this screen will come up. So this is how we are customizing the out of the box experience of the device. So let's take a sneak peek into what exactly we configure in the profile. So over here you can see there is this profile wherein I have shown some screens and hidden some screens. So over here you see that I have shown the Apple ID. Therefore we were able to see the Apple ID screen, and initially I had done shown to location service as well, and all these screens are hidden, like accepting terms and conditions, setting up of touch ID, face ID, Apple Pay, Zoom, Siri, display and stuff like that, passcode and all of this. So whatever we decide in the profile determines the screen that the end user is going to see. Okay, so now what happens is, now the company portal gets downloaded, the company portal gets installed. This is assuming that our profile requires company portal. We sign into company portal, we get the information telling that our device is going to be managed. We select our category, and then we are good to proceed. And then the management, once the management profile is downloaded and installed, we see checking device settings, and then it tells us that everything is good to go, and then we just have to click on done over here. Then in the next screen, if we go to devices, we can see all the devices that are enrolled by this specific user, and then it tells us the name of the user as well, and we have an option of checking the status whenever we want. Once this is all done, once the device is enrolled, whatever applications are pushed to the device, those applications will start coming down to the device. Like for example, in this case, you can see I had pushed in Google Chrome. Therefore, Google Chrome comes down and gets installed in this device. Okay. Now there is one important thing that I want to mention. This is a little different, and hence I want to highlight it. Probably this might be a good interview question as well. That is, in case of Windows, you would see that the device first gets Azure AD registered or Azure AD joined, and then if the MDM scope is set and if the user has the license, the device is going to be Intune enrolled as well, if the automatic enrollment in Intune in MDM scope was set. However, in case of DEP enrollment, the flow is not the same. In case of DEP, the device is getting enrolled to Intune first. So the device, let me go back over here. The profile over here, you saw that the profile came down to the device. This profile was containing the customized out of the box experience of the device. So we saw this customized out of the box experience, and then when the device reached the desktop screen, by that time the device was enrolled to Intune. So from Intune standpoint, the device is good, but the device is currently not registered to Azure. The Azure AD registration happens after the user signs into the company portal application, enters his credential over here and gets the device, and the checking of the device has happened. So before this screen, even though technically the device is Intune enrolled, the device is not Azure AD registered, meaning it is possible in case of ADE to get the device enrolled to Intune but not have the device Azure AD registered, meaning the device's entry will be there in Intune but it will not have an entry in Azure, or it will have a device ID like this. So this is a screenshot taken for a device in which I had not logged into company portal, and since I had not logged into company portal, the association between the device and the user had not happened. So this association is known as UDA, or user device association. So the user device association is going to happen after the end user logs into the company portal. Since he has not done that, over here you can see that the primary UPN is empty because Intune does not know who is the user. The UPN is not captured yet. You see that there is an Intune device ID associated with this device. The device has the name as per the profile that we have created, as per the ADE profile. The management name is also there. The compliance is also set. Device is shown over here as managed. Device is Intune enrolled. You can get all this information. You can get the information related to the operating system, the storage, the free space, all of that. But the device is not registered with Azure, therefore the Azure AD device ID is all 0. The Azure AD device registration happens after the user logs into the company portal application, and once he does that, now you see that whichever UPN was used to log into company portal, it shows up over here under primary user UPN. And now the Azure AD device ID also shows up over here. Also, the Intune device ID and Azure AD device ID both are never supposed to be the same. There are some anomaly wherein I have seen that both Intune device ID and Azure AD device ID are shown as same in the portal. That is a case wherein the Intune enrollment and Azure AD registration did not happen successfully correctly. But if a Azure AD registration and enrollment both happened successfully correctly, then both of them should be populated like you see in the screen, and they should not be like 000 like you see over here. So again, a very important point for us to keep in mind, and this is important because this is not how it happens with Windows. In Windows it is different. The device will first be Azure AD registered or Intune enrolled, and only then Azure AD registered or Azure AD joined, and only then it will be Intune enrolled, right? But now that is not, not the case here in case of iOS. All right, just a little bit of crux of what we have understood until now as far as the flow is concerned. First, the device is going to reach out to the Apple activation service. Apple gives the device a MDM URL. Because how does Apple gives the device the MDM URL? The Apple is able to give the device MDM URL because over here we have done the mapping of which device has which profile and which MDM server, right? Therefore, in this blue color over here, you are seeing that the device is getting a response from Apple, wherein it is telling the device that this is your MDM URL, which in this case is the MDM URL of the Intune service. Therefore, over here in this step, you see that the device is reaching out to this MDM URL and downloading the ADE profile. So Apple gives the device the MDM URL, the device reaches out to the MDM URL, it downloads the ADE profile, it undergoes the out-of-the-box, customized out-of-the-box experience, it gets enrolled to Intune, and once it gets enrolled to Intune, whatever policies and applications are deployed to Intune, they come down to the device. As far as registering with Azure is concerned, that happens when the user logs into the company portal application. Now, once UDA is established, the user targeted policies come down by default. So this sync that is happening between ADE and Intune, that happens by default in every 12 hours. We have that is a delta sync, and every 7 days there is a full sync that is happening. We have an option of kicking off a manual sync as well. We can do that every 15 minutes. And whenever we are doing a sync, what is happening is Intune is going to Apple and is finding out about this information. Which information? It is finding out about this information, that which MDM server has which device assigned to it, so that that sync can happen with Intune. Every time we assign a profile to a device or we edit a profile, the same information is synced to the ABM immediately and automatically. Meaning, just like we saw in this diagram, every time we are assigning a profile 1 to device 1 or profile 2 or device 2, or we are changing the assignment, a sync is happening from MDM to Apple, wherein we are telling Apple that to this device now this profile is assigned. Because if we don't tell this Apple, then Apple doesn't know that what is the MDM situation over here. So Apple needs to be notified that to this device which is present in this MDM server, which is talking to this specific instance of MDM, it has this profile assigned to it. The details of this profile, the device will get it when it's talking to the MDM directly, but Apple needs to know about this information. So this sync is going to happen every time we edit a policy over here. We have an option of triggering a sync between ABM and Intune by going into Intune and clicking on the token that we have. We are going to see that later. We can do that by default every 15 minutes, and a sync happens automatically every 7 days, which is a full sync. And there is a delta sync as well that happens, as we saw over here, every 12 hours.
Okay, so the flow that we have seen until now is the normal generalized flow. However, there are a couple of things that might change depending upon the mode and the configuration that we have in the depth profile. Therefore, I just wanted to call out these two special modes. One is guided access mode, and the second is await final config. I'm going to very briefly touch on these two modes for now, and then when we do the demo, we are going to get into details of it. So first is guided mode, and when we are configuring the dep profile, over there, if the authentication method is chosen as company portal, and if we want to install company portal using a VPP token, then we see a special option over here. This toggle is otherwise not present, but now you see this special option that I'm getting, which says run company portal in single app mode until authentication. What this means is, until the end user, so we have already seen that company portal comes down to the device, and when the end user logs into company portal, that is when the device gets WPJ, right? Workplace joined, that is Azure AD registered, but the device is already enrolled. So what if the end user never goes into the company portal and logs in? Then the Azure AD registration will never happen, right? Which is not a good thing, which is what we don't want to happen. Therefore, we have this mode wherein over here you see that company portal is not even downloaded at this point, because it's going to take some time for the company portal to download and install. Until then, you see this message. The message says that guided access app is unavailable. Guided access app meaning the company portal app, and the end user cannot make use of the device. The device is frozen in the screen and the device is not usable. Think of it like an extension of ESP that we might have in case of Windows, right? Windows Autopilot. Now, once the company portal is downloaded and installed, it launches up automatically, and the end user doesn't have the option of exiting this application. What I mean by that is, at this stage, the device is running in a single app mode, and that single app is company portal. The end user cannot exit this app. He has to click on sign in, he has to enter his credentials and finish the Azure AD registration of the device. Hence, using guided mode is a way to ensure that the end user is actually doing the AAD registration of the device and he is logging into the company portal application. This is the first mode that I wanted to talk about. Okay, the next mode that we are going to talk about is the await final configuration mode, and think of this mode as the actual ESP for iOS device. So until the actual security policies and all the important policies come down to the device, you will see that the device shows this screen which says that awaiting final configuration from Microsoft Intune, and it is not letting you go to the desktop screen. So right now the device is checking in with the Intune service. So as we can see, the MDM command is sent to the device and the device is locked in the await final configuration state until admin specified settings and commands for apps are installed before the device is released to the end user's home screen. This is important and critical for delivering a secured provisioning experience, because if the device is at the home screen and the important policies have not come down, then that is a security risk, right? Let's say that you are an educational institute and you have a policy which restricts users uh, from opening some websites, let's say YouTube or Facebook, from their Chrome browser or any browser. Now let's say that that policy has not come down yet, but the device is at the home screen, so the end user or the student in this case can open Chrome and go to any website that he wants to, because the policy has not come down and the browser restriction is not in place yet. Therefore, await final configuration is going to hold the device in that state until the relevant policies come down, so that when the device is at the desktop screen, it is org ready and has all the security and important policies applied to it. This is a one-time OOB experience during the device's setup. So this await final configuration is only going to come just like ESP when you're provisioning the device for the very first time. Once you're at the home screen, then this is never going to come again. And what happens during this phase? Intune computes the assignment and pushes the settings. So let's say that your device or user is part of many security groups. Then it's going to take a considerable amount of time for Intune to evaluate the group membership, right? So there might be some delay there, or let's say that you have pushed a lot of policies. So then it's going to take some time for the evaluation to happen of group membership and the policies to come down. So the amount of time you might be at the await final config screen would depend upon the group membership of the user or the device and the amount of policies that have been pushed. For application, it's a little different. You won't see this screen until all the apps are installed, because let's say you have pushed Office or some big app, right? So then it would take a lot of time for the applications to install. So we are not going to hold the screen until that. In this screen, we are so Intune service is just going to push in command for the apps to start downloading and installing, but it is not going to wait for the process to finish. What I mean by that is, in await config settings, there are two things that is going to happen. First is all the settings are going to be pushed and all the settings and security policies are going to be pushed and they are going to be applied as well. So await config is going to wait for the policies to come down and the policies to get applied. However, for applications, it is just going to wait for the command that the Intune service is going to send for the application to get installed. But it is not going to wait for the application to finish installing, because that might take a lot of time. Now, this await final configuration is used when we have set in the ADE profile, we have set up setup assistant with modern authentication. We can use it with no user affinity as well. And this feature was released in 2303 release. So in 2023, in March, the release that the service release of Intune that we had in the month of March, this setting was released. Now, moving forward, there might be a chance, like when we do in ESP, when we create a ESP for Autopilot for Windows, we have an option of choosing, right, that which apps should be bound to the ESP and which apps should not be. What that means is, I want the ESP page or the await final config page to not let the end user to go to the home screen until out of the 10 apps targeted to the device, these 3 or 4 selected apps are pushed and are installed. That is what you can do in ESP. However, in await final config,
you cannot choose those applications or settings. There might be such options in future, but as of now there is no such option. But yeah, it would make sense to have to give the admin the option to choose that until these applications are not coming down to the device, await final config should still be there. So just for parity with what we have in ESP. The reason why I'm bringing ESP into the picture is because if you have a little bit of Windows background and you've used Autopilot, then this analogy and this comparison should make sense. So until now, we should have understood what await final configuration setting is and when it is used for and what is the advantage of using this setting. Okay, now let's dive into the logs, and I'm going to talk about the system logs that we can collect while we are doing any ADE provisioning. So this is the flow we are going to see from the logs. First, we are going to see that the device is going to get activated, and the flow that we are going to see in the logs would match with the flow that we have seen in the diagram over here in the previous section. So the device gets activated, the device is going to reach out to the MDM URL, and the MDM profile is going to download, install, company portal is going to be installed if you have pushed it, company portal will be used in single app mode, guided access if you have configured it, and stuff like that. So over here you see that I have collected the console logs of whatever is, so using, think of console logs as uh, something like an event viewer log or any kind of a log that you would collect in Windows device, which is going to collect everything that is happening at the operating system, right? So similarly, we have collected the console logs, and to collect the console logs I connected my iOS device with a MacBook, and in the MacBook I collected the console logs. So over here the first thing that you can see is that the activation state of the device is changing to activated. So the very first thing that is happening is the device is powering on. It is connecting to the internet, the Wi-Fi screen is coming, and then the device is going to reach out to the Apple activation service as we have already seen in the flow, and the device is going to get activated. After the device is activated, the device reaches out to the ABM service or ASM service, and the device is told that you have a MDM server and a MDM profile assigned to you, and this is the URL of the MDM. This is where you need to go to, and then the device is going to reach out to that MDM URL. Now this is a previous log, and in this log I was able to see the URL as well in the latest logs. So this logging actually keeps on changing from time to time. So what I see in the logs right now might not be same as what you see in the logs when you are checking it, because whatever is captured in the logs, the keywords that are used in the logs, it keeps on changing. However, I have a historical log, and over here in this historical log we can see that the end device is reaching out to the MDM URL over here, and when it received a response from the URL, it contained the ADE profile that we have created. And what did we select in that ADE profile? In that ADE profile, we have selected which screens to hide and which screens to allow, right? Like if there are 10 OOB screens, then we are hiding something, we are not hiding something. So over here, you can see skip buddy, which tells you that which screens are going to be skipped and which are not going to be skipped. And you have screens for passcode, location, Apple ID, biometric, Zoom, Siri, and it's telling you which screens are going to be skipped and which are not going to be skipped. So once again, first the device got activated, then it reached out to the ABM or ASM service. The ASM service told the device that you need to go to this specific MDM URL. The device reached out to that MDM URL, and in response, it got the ADE profile, and that ADE profile is containing all the settings that were configured by the admin. Now the device downloads the profile, and the MDM profile is then installed. So over here you can see it is saying that beginning profile installation for Microsoft.profiles MDM. This is wherein the MDM profile is installed because the device is going to be managed. Once the MDM profile is installed, now you're going to see that the device is going to poll the MDM server, wherein device is going to check in with the MDM server, which in this case is Intune, and it's going to fetch all the relevant policies and applications and whatnot. And you can also see it says something like starting request to, where it's reaching out to the discovery.svc. It's reaching out to the Intune endpoint, wherein you can see the AAD tenant ID as well. Now again, as I said, you might at some point of time, if you check in the logs, the verbiage might change, but this is the flow that is going to happen at the backend. So the device is obviously reaching out to the AD tenant over here. And then once the profile is installed over here, you see that the MDM profile is installed. You see something like Microsoft.profiles.mdm 94 installed, something like that. And once the MDM profile is installed, the device is enrolled to Intune. Now await config and all of that is done. Now if you have configured the company portal application to be present in the device, company portal is now going to download and install, right? So over here in the logs, you can see that company portal, you can see company portal in the bundle display name. You can see company portal is getting downloaded and installed. And since in this example, I have configured guided mode, therefore over here, you can see there is something called verifying guided access. So you will see the verbiage guided access in the logs as well. You might see the word GAX for guided access as well. So this is only coming because I had configured the guided access or the single app mode that we talked about. So it's going to check whether company portal is installed or not, and until company portal is installed, it's going to give you that screen, and it's going to hold you there, and then it's going to automatically launch the company portal app in single app mode and wait for the end user to log in. Therefore, all that is happening, and it is telling us that it's verifying the guided access mode, and then app is being installed. Over here, it tells you that company portal application is being installed until that the guided access mode is going to be there. And once company portal installation is done, it's going to tell you that as well. The bundle ID of company portal app is going to show up in the logs as well. So again, once again, the flow that we have seen until now is that the device is presented with the customized out of the box screen as per the ADE profile that it has downloaded. And how has it downloaded the ADE profile? It first reached out to the Apple Activation Service, then to ABM or ASM. ABM or ASM told it that it's a special device. It's a device which has an MDM profile assigned to it, and this is the MDM URL. The device goes through the MDM URL and it downloads the profile, right? The device is enrolled. Once the device is enrolled, it gets the Intune device ID assigned to it. The MDM profile is installed. We saw that in the logs as well. Then the company portal app is downloaded and the end user signs into it. This is only if the authentication method is set to company portal. And if you have if you have configured the single app mode or guided app mode, then we have seen in the logs that we see something like GAX or guided app mode, which is holding the device to that screen. And then at the end, once the company portal is downloaded and installed, that is launched, WPJ happens, and this is the point wherein the Azure AD device ID is issued to the device. Before this, the Azure AD device ID shows as 0000. And if the Azure AD device ID is not assigned to the device, then you cannot make use of any Azure related features like conditional access and stuff like that, right? Because the device is not recognized in Azure. It's only there in Intune. So this would be a crux of the flow as per the logs that we have seen right now. Okay, now let's take a look over the configuration and the setup that the admin has to do in order to enroll a ADE device via Intune. And we are going to break down the steps into two parts. There are some things that the admin has to do in the Intune portal, and there are some things that the admin has to do in the ADE for AD in the ABM or the ASM portal. So let's take a look over both. In the Intune portal, we are going to set up the APNS, which we would have done for enrolling any iOS device. We have to set up the integration between Intune and ADE. Like we have to set up the integration we have spoken about in the flow, because Intune is a separate cloud and
ABM or ASM is a separate entity, so they both need to talk with each other. So that integration needs to be done. And in the Intune portal, we have to create the ADE profile, because the ADE profile is, if that is not created, then the end device is not going to know what is going to be the customized out of the box experience, right? So each device needs to have a DEP or a ADE profile created and assigned to it, and then we can assign apps and configurations to the user group once the device is enrolled. Now in the ABM or ASM portal, we have to again do the integration, and we have to assign devices to a MDM server. So we are going to take a look over all of these right now. So right now I'm at the Intune portal, and if you go into the iPad iOS enrollment, over here there is an option called Enrollment Program Tokens. From here, when we click on this, we have to just like we have created an APNS, we have to click over here and create a DEP or a ADE token, right? So we have to click on add over here. We have to download the public key, create, and if we are making use of ABM, then we have to go to Apple Business Manager. If we are making use of ASM, then Apple School Manager, the links are there. We just have to download a key over here. Right now you can see that I've downloaded a key, that's a .pem file, and then we go into the Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager. We log into it, and then uh, under our name there is an option which says your MDM servers. We have to click on add, we have to name our MDM server, and in the choose file we have to upload the PEM file that we have downloaded in the previous section. The PEM file that we downloaded over here from the Intune portal, we have to upload that over here. Once we have uploaded, we have an option of downloading server token. So we are going to download that server token, and we are going to upload that server token in Intune. So what this means is, once again, this is very simple, right? Like, this is the Apple entity. Let's call it the Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager. And this is the Intune entity, right? So Intune and Apple both need to trust each other. But then in Apple, there are so many customers using ABM or ASM, right? And then there are so many customers having their separate tenant in Intune. So how does Apple know where Intune is and Intune knows where Apple is? So from here, we are downloading something and uploading to the Apple portal. And what was that? That was that .pem file which we just saw. So let me just call this .pem. Excuse my handwriting. And from Apple, we downloaded something and we uploaded that into our DEP token, which you see over here. This is also .pem or .p7m format. So now Apple knows where Intune is and Intune knows where Apple is. This is how the trust is established between both. And then over here, when we go into the devices section, if I go into the devices section in my ABM or ASM portal, over here I can see the devices, right? And you can see that this device is assigned to this MDM server. I have an option of selecting some other MDM server as well. I'll get a list. I can see a list of all the MDM servers present, and I can assign this iPhone to a specific MDM server, and that MDM server will be of a specific Intune tenant, right? Once we have done that, once we run a sync, the device that was assigned to a specific MDM server, it shows up in the Intune portal as well. So before we talk about the devices right now, you can see first my DEP token is showing up. So under enrollment program tokens, you can see the name of my token. It says that the token is active. You have an option of renewing the token, or you have an option of syncing the token as well. Over here it is saying that school data sync, because this is linked with ASM. Apple School Manager, which is equivalent to Apple Business Manager, but just for schools. And if both my DEP tokens are showing up over here, one is linked with Apple School Manager, the other one is with Apple Business Manager. This one has expired. It tells me the ID also that I have used and when was the last sync that happened. Okay, now if I go into the devices section against my profile, I can see the device over here. And which device is this? This device is the same device which was over here. You can see the serial number is also the same. So this device was there. How did that device come into the Intune portal? Again, could be a good interview question. So First, the device was added into ABM or ASM. How was the device added to ABM or ASM? The device was added to ABM or ASM by the reseller, or we used Apple configurator and we manually added the device. Now, once the device was added to ABM or ASM, what happened next? The admin went into ABM or ASM and he assigned that device to a specific MDM server. What happened after that? After that, we ran a sync, or a sync ran automatically, and the same information was relayed to Intune. Therefore, the same device is now showing up in the Intune portal it's as well. Right? Now we are going to create a ABM, we are going to create a DEP profile. Over here, you can see that I have created 3 DEP profiles. I can create more by going into the profiles tab and clicking on create profile. I'm going to create a profile, select whatever options I need to select in that profile, and then assign that profile to this device which is already showing up over here. So it's very easy, right? Again, 1,000 feet overview. You get the device to the ABM portal. You assign that device to a MDM server. That MDM server is there in Intune, is linked because that MDM server is linked with your DEP token. That device now shows up in your Intune portal. Now you create a DEP profile and you assign that profile to the above received device which synced from ABM, right? Very simple. So over here, I'm creating a ADE profile. Oh, you see there are so many options under use. You can select user affinity or without user affinity. User affinity means the device is going to be attributed to a user. Without user affinity means it's going to be a device which is going to be used across or by many users, right? So if it's one user, one device, then you use user affinity. If it is like a shared device, kiosk device, a device which is used by various students in the same classroom, then you can do enroll without user affinity. And then we have shared mode as well. We have the authentication method. We have an option of choosing who is going to do the authentication, whether it's company portal, whether it is setup assistant. You can, if you are using company, if you want company portal in the device, you can select whether you want to install it using VPP token. If you use it installing VPP token, then you don't necessarily need to, the end user necessarily doesn't need to include his Apple ID, or he can log into App Store using his Apple ID and then download company portal manually as well, even though that's not recommended. Supervised mode, as we have already spoken about, now it's always going to be yes. We can do something called logged enrollment, sync with other computers. We can upload certificates as well if needed, and we can follow a naming convention as well, just like we have in case of autopilot profile, wherein each device which has received a specific autopilot profile follows the naming convention mentioned in that profile. Similarly, each device which is going to enroll using this DEP or ADE profile is going to follow the naming convention present in this. We'll see more of this when we do the demo. And then over here, you in the same depth profile, in the next screen you see the option of choosing the out of the box screen. So we can choose to show whatever we want, or we can choose to hide whatever we want, and you see all the options, right? Like passcode, whether the end user is going to get a option to a screen for doing restoration, Apple ID, Zoom, CD, home button, and stuff like that. All right. And once you have an option of doing something called a dynamic group, right? So the concept of dynamic group is very simple. There are two kinds of groups that we can create in Intune. One is a static group, wherein you are going to say that, okay, this user or this device should be a part of this group, or you can use a logic. Now that logic comes under dynamic group. So the logic that I have used in this dynamic group is over here. Let's say that I have created 3 different ADE profiles, and the name of the ADE profiles are as you see in the screen. Now let's say that I have a device D1, and that device D1 is getting enrolled by this profile, by this ADE profile. So the logic that I'm going to use in my grouping is uh, any device which is enrolled by using a profile with this name should be a part of this group that I'm creating. So right now, whatever you see in the upper half of the screen is what I did when I was creating a dynamic device group. So what I did was, first this device D1 was assigned to this DEP profile. And then I'm saying that any device whose enrollment profile name, so when D1 is assigned to this group, then the enrollment profile name for the device is this, meaning this device D1 is enrolled via this profile. So what I'm saying is any device whose enrollment profile name equals to this, and this name should be exactly similar to the name that we see over here. So any device which is enrolled by a ADE profile whose name is this should be a part of this group that I'm creating. And you can use the UI to create this logic, and at the bottom it actually tells you the syntax as well, where it says that device.enrollment profile name equals whatever we have in the quotes, which is over here the value. Then the device is going to get added to this group, and over here when I go into the members, I see that these two devices have got added. And why have these two devices got added? That is, these two devices have got added because I had this device assigned to this group, right? Hence our logic worked. So we can use the same logic. We pretty much use the same logic for Autopilot as well. Now we have to remember two things. Why are we exactly creating this group? We are creating this group so that all the devices that we want to get added to this group gets added, and then we can assign policies to this group. However, we have to remember that that the ADE profile is not assigned to this group. When we assign a ADE profile, we assign it to a device and not to a group. Like over here, this is the device, and we have assigned this device to a specific profile. We have not assigned this group to any profile. So first the device is going to get enrolled by a specific ADE profile. How is that going to happen? It is going to happen because we have assigned this device to a specific ADE profile. Now, once the device gets enrolled via a ADE profile, then we use that logic and populate that device in a specific group, and then we use that group in assignment of any settings or applications. So remember the chronology. The device gets assigned to a ADE profile. So we are doing that assignment manually, one device at a time, or maybe you can use some kind of graph API or PowerShell script. So the device is getting, serial number of the device is getting assigned to a ADE profile. The group is not getting assigned here. The device gets enrolled using that ADE profile. Since the device got enrolled using that ADE profile, we use a logic to determine how many devices have got enrolled using a specific ADE profile. Now we get a group populated. Now we use this group which contains all the relevant devices, and we assign this group to a specific application or to a specific device configuration profile. Okay, so I hope that the chronology is clear. All right. So, and over here in this next screenshot, you can see that the device got enrolled. It used the naming convention it was supposed to use, and it tells you the UPN that was used to log in, the device state, compliance, last check-in, everything looks good. Okay. Now I want to share with you guys a official documentation that we have from Microsoft, which is a enrollment guide. So this is the URL. You can go to this URL, and it is talking about enrollment guide. And you would have seen the screenshot before. I had it earlier in my slides. It's talking about what exactly ADE is, and it's saying that previously called DEP. It can be used to enroll devices which are owned by your organization. We can use ABM or ASM. I mean, it's talking about first about the background. Now it's talking about when should we use ADE profile. Again, this is just a background. I'm just giving you as your official reference documentation in case you want to refer to what Microsoft has documented about this topic. So it's saying if you should use it when the device has to be supervised, the device are owned by organization or school. We have new devices because for existing devices we'll have to reset it. We need to enroll a few devices or we want to bulk enroll a large number of devices. We can use in both. Where there is single user associated as well as for kiosk we can use it. But for BYOD, we are not supposed to use AD. We have already discussed why. If it is existing device, we are not supposed to use it. We have already discussed why, because we'll have to reset it. If the device is managed by any other MDM, then obviously not. Or if you want to make use of DEM, then also you're not supposed to make use of ADE. Now it's talking about what are the different tasks that we have to follow. We have already seen all this. For configuration of ADE, we divided it into two parts. One was the task that we have to do in the ABM or ASM portal, and the second one was the task that we have to do in the Intune portal. We have done all of this. We have seen we have to create a push notification certificate. We have to create the ADE token and stuff like that. And now when we are now this is important. We are going to discuss this in detail as well as I'm going to demo this as well. So when we create a DEP profile or AD profile, we see a lot of options over there, whether we want to make use of company portal or not, whether we want to make use of setup assistant, whether we want to make use of setup assistant with modern authentication. What is the difference between all of this? I'm going to come to that very shortly, but I just wanted to show you guys this documentation for reference first, and this documentation contains a lot of information. So this probably can be your starting point. Now I'm going to explain all these points in detail. For that, let me just go back to my deck. So when we are creating a AD profile, then primarily there is one question that is asked to us, whether we want to make use of something called user affinity or whether we want to make use of something called no user affinity. And the difference is pretty much straightforward, right? If you want a user associated with your device, then you choose user affinity. If you don't want a user associated with your device, you don't choose user affinity. So if it is one device being used by one user always, then you choose user affinity. If it is like a shared device or device along classroom, we have already spoken about this, right? So user affinity, choose whether devices with this profile must enroll with or without an assigned user. We can enroll with user affinity when the device is belonging to a specific user, and if you want to make use of company portal to install applications. If you choose enroll with user affinity, then you have, again, let's say that you have chosen user affinity, then again under user affinity you have two options, whether you want to now if you're choosing user affinity, now see, it's so logical, right? If you are saying that the device should be associated with a specific user, therefore you are choosing user affinity, that is this option. Now if the user is affiliated with a specific device, then the user has to be authenticated, right? Only then the user affinity will happen. Now how will you authenticate the user? There are two locations wherein you can authenticate the user. You can either authenticate the user by using the company portal application, or you can use something called setup assistant. Hence, when you are making the profile, you will have to make this selection. Either you want to make use of company portal application. If you choose enroll with user affinity, you can let the users authenticate using company portal or using setup assistant, right? And now again, it is talking about this option, enrolling without user affinity. Choose this option for device unaffiliated with a specific user, and use this option for devices that perform tasks without accessing local user data. Apps like company portal don't work. We don't need company portal application necessarily on an iOS device for this to function. Okay. Now, again, this is actually a separate point. Now, this can again be an important interview question. Um, do you need company portal application necessarily on an iOS device to manage it from Intune? Well, if not, then give me an example where you don't need company portal app, or maybe whether the question could be whether you need a company portal application necessarily on a device or not. If not, then substantiate with example or with a use case. And this can be a use case wherein we are doing enrolling without user affinity and we are not authenticating via company portal application. In that case, setup assistant is doing the authentication of the device, and well, in both the cases the MDM profile is getting installed in the settings app of the device, right? Even if company portal application is not there, that is fine, but MDM profile is installed. That is important. Company portal is needed so that the device gets WPJ'd and Azure AD registered, right? But even if company portal is not there, the device is still enrolled to Intune, it will get the policies. Hence, this is a use case wherein we can prove that even without company portal present in the device is enrolled and Intune managed. Yes, it's a userless device. The device is not Azure AD registered and it does not have an Azure AD ID, but that doesn't mean it's not enrolled to Intune, right? Hence, I wanted to specifically call out this point and highlight this segregation. Okay. Now, let's take a closer look into the enrollment methodologies. Now, again, another interview question could be you want to enroll a ADE device to Intune. What are the various ways or methodologies that you have, and explain the differences or similarities between each of them. So I have this diagram which explains the various buckets by which we can enroll a AD device. Now there is something called user affinity. There is something called without user affinity. We have already discussed when to use user affinity, when to use without user affinity. And then there is something called Azure AD shared mode. Now, when you're using user affinity, again, there are a lot of permutation and combination that you can do. You can do setup assistant legacy with company portal. You can do setup assistance legacy without company portal. You can do setup assistant with modern authentication. You can do user affinity with company portal through VPP. And if you are doing company portal through VPP, you can use single app mode as well. We are going to see all these in the demo. If you are doing user affinity without user affinity, you can use the without user affinity default one, or you can use user affinity without user affinity shared iPad mode. And then you have the Azure AD shared mode as well, right? So these are the various enrollment methodologies that we have. I hope that we have at least understood the difference between user affinity and non-user affinity. Uh, and our documentation clearly calls out when to use which one. So over here, as we have understood the difference between this and this, now let's deep dive into the various points that we have here. We have some methodologies which has company portal in it. Like this one has company portal, this one has company portal, this one has it, and this one has it. But we have some which does not have company portal in it, this one and this one. Now, when to use company portal and when not to use company portal. Let's see that first. And this is all coming from Microsoft's official documentation. Our documentation states that you should select company portal. Well, why are you using company portal? You're using company portal so that the end user logs into company portal, and when the end user logs into company portal, the device is already registered. And what is the advantage of getting the device Azure already registered? The device's entry is now created in Azure, so you can make use of Azure's related features. What are Azure's related feature? We are going to see that. You can make use of MFA, which is an Azure feature. You can prompt the user to update their expired password when they first log in. Updating a password is an Azure's feature. You can prompt the user to reset their expired password during enrollment. You want the devices to be registered in Azure AD. And finally, if you want to lock the device using you can use company portal in the single app mode. We have already seen this example, right? If you remember this example when we were talking about guided access mode, wherein the device was running in single app mode in company portal and it was blocking the device. It was like an ESP, if you would call it, for iOS, right? So company portal was making sure that the device was unusable until the end user logs in and does the WPJ. So that is exactly what this point is calling out. It says that after it installs, user signs it to the company portal application with his Azure AD ID. The device is then unlocked and the user can use it. Now the second option is using Setup Assistant Legacy. When should we use Setup Assistant's Legacy? We should use it when we don't need all these Azure AD's feature, because in this case company portal is not getting installed necessarily, and if company portal is not getting installed, you cannot make use of Azure's feature. So over here it says that you don't want to use modern authentication and features like MFA. You don't want to register the device with Azure AD. And obviously it says that if you want the devices to be registered with Azure AD, then install the company portal application. Don't install it manually. You can push it from Intune by you don't have to manually push it from Intune. You can use this option and everything will work. Now, setup assistant with modern authentication. Now, I am going to stress on this point later on as well, but just keep this in the back of your mind that this is the recommended and the preferred way of enrolling a AD device as per Microsoft, because in this case you are the device is getting Azure AD registered and the company portal is automatically coming to the device. So obviously if company portal is coming automatically to the device, then you can make use of all the Azure's features, right? So it says that setup assistant with modern authentication can be used when you want to make use of MFA, you want all the advantages that you have seen over here. All those advantages are coming here as well, right? You want to prompt the end user to update their password. You want to prompt the end user to, if their password is expired, to update them during enrollment. And we want the users to use the device even when company portal app is not installed in this device. So in the previous mode over here, we were making company portal app run in the single app mode, and until company portal app was installed and the user had logged in, the device was not usable. However, in this case, you are not making company portal as a mandate. Until company portal app comes down, the end user can still make use of the device, right? And in this case automatically the company portal app comes down during enrollment. So long story short, you have these three buckets, if you would call it, with company portal, with setup assistance legacy, and with setup assistant modern authentication. This is something that you should rarely use. You should only use this when you don't want to make use of Azure's features. This is something this was inherently used earlier, and it provides you some extra advantages like single app mode and guided access mode and stuff like that. This is something that we are recommending everybody to use. And then again it says that to authenticate, Microsoft recommends, so we are clearly calling it out in our documentation as well. Microsoft recommends using company portal app or the setup assistant with modern authentication. So either this one or this one. Now I will show you another blog wherein we are saying that you should use this one only and not use this one. Okay, not use just a company portal, use setup assistant with modern authentication. I'm going to show you that blog very shortly. Okay, so now just a little bit of more explanation. So let's call this use case one, let's call this use case two. So now let's look at some more explanation into use case one. So this is just a slide talking about option one. It says that this is the first way of enrolling, a modern way to enroll our AD devices. And this allows us to change the MFA as well. I mean, to make use of MFA and to change the password as well. It is supported. And remember this point, this is important. When you are using user affinity with company portal, if you are using VPP, that's fine. If you're not using VPP, you don't have to push the company portal application manually. to the device. Like you don't have to go to apps in the Intune portal and then select company portal and then deploy it to a device group or a user group. The company portal application is going to automatically come down to the device if you have chosen user affinity with company portal in the ADE profile. So using this method, company portal should not be deployed to the devices or users as required. The ADE profile will download it automatically. Uh, However, for it to download it, the end user will have to add the Apple ID to his App Store, because using that only the company portal application will come down. However, there is a downside to this method of using user affinity with company portal. Uh, the downside is, what if the end user never logs into company portal application? You have chosen user affinity with company portal, which means that company portal is going to come down to the device. But what if the end user never logs into company portal? In that case, the WPJ is not going to happen. Or so there is nothing that is forcing the user to open the company portal app to finish the entire process, right? That is why for the solution to that was using this mode, which was the single app mode, which forces the end user to log into company portal app, because the device is in single app mode and the device is in that guided access mode, right? All right, so I hope that we have by now understood user affinity with company portal, this mode. We have understood when to use company portal, the advantages of using company portal. When we are using company portal, there are two options available: either just use company portal or use company portal in guided access mode, and we would have understood the difference between these two. Now, when you're using company portal, you have an option of deploying company portal through VPP. So over here, you can see that this method will allow the admins to push the company portal application with ADE. And what is the advantage of using this? So user affinity with company portal through VPP, the advantage is the company portal application is coming through VPP, which means that the end user does not have to provide his Apple ID and go into the settings for company portal application to download. Now, see, this mode and the mode before this, these two are exactly the same. The only difference is, in this, the company portal application to come down and install, the end user will have to sign into the app store in the device, right, with his Apple ID. However, in this one, he doesn't have to do it because the application is coming via VPP. So this method is helpful because this way the admin may have full control on what apps are installed on the device, but he can also block the app store, because the end user is not necessarily entering his Apple ID to the app store. The applications are coming through VPP. And using this method as well, the company portal app should not be deployed. What this is a very important point, and what this means is, in the ADE profile, we are choosing whether it's going to be this mode or whether it's going to be this mode. But in both the cases, if the company portal is needed as per the mode, we don't have to go into apps in the Intune portal and deploy the company portal application. That is going to come down automatically. Now there is another mode. This is the guided access mode that we have seen a couple of times already. That is user affinity with company portal through VPP and single app mode or guided access mode. This is the most secured mode because we install the enrollment profile and then with VPP we'll install the company portal application. But while we are on the home page waiting for company portal to install, the device will be locked down and any unwanted downloads from the final user, and the end user will not be able to make use of the device. The device will enter in the single app mode, right? We have already seen it in the screenshot. The pop-up that we see, that is not an error. It is just telling us that the guided access mode app is not available, meaning company portal is not available. It's downloading, it's installing, and once it downloads and install, it automatically launches. Now, another important point: how long is the device going to be stuck in that guided access mode screen? We have already discussed this. It's going to depend upon how many groups the device is a part of or the user is part of, because it's going to evaluate all of that, and it's going to install all the important settings and push the command for app installation. It's not going to wait for the app to install, but push it. We have already discussed all of this. And then after the Intune company portal gets installed, it will open the company portal app automatically, and the end user won't be able to exit the app until he or she completes the enrollment process and the device is compliant. Now, running the company portal app in single app mode until authentication is not a supported flow anymore. Now, this is again a very important point. The option exists, but Microsoft is not really encouraging us to do this. So the last option that you see with company portal through VPP plus single app mode, this is something that we are not encouraging people to use. So we are clearly calling out that the recommendation is using setup assistant with modern authentication, like we saw over here, right? The third method over here, setup assistant with modern authentication. This is the recommended method, setup assistant with modern authentication. And in the demo, we are going to see why, but I just first wanted to explain all the methods and then call out clearly what exactly is recommendation from Microsoft. In the first half of 2024, this method will not even exist. Right now, when you make a ADE profile, the option is there to choose company portal app and then via VPP and then lock it down in single app mode and guided access mode and all of that. But that is going to go away in 2024, and devices will not be able to go through this enrollment methodologies, and you won't be able to save any new enrollment profiles as well. So the moral of the story is use setup assistant with modern authentication. Okay, and the next is user affinity with Apple setup assistant. So until now we have been seeing all the methods of user affinity with company portal. Now the next one is using setup assistant. This is the legacy method. This is the only method which historic, so you can ignore this point for now. I just added it because earlier this was an option. So earlier you can do ADE enrollment but not have the device supervised. However, support for unsupervised ADE devices is deprecated in the later versions of iOS. I believe iOS 11 and later. Now, using user affinity with setup assistant, there are some things that you cannot do. What are the things you cannot do? Anything that requires, we have already discussed all of this, right? Anything that requires company portal application. So I'm just going back over here, and right now we are discussing this option, setup assistant without company portal application. And we have already seen what are the things that you cannot do over here, right? So the slide is also talking about the same things. Uh, User affinity with Apple Assistant without without company portal. You cannot use using this method. You cannot use multi-factor authentication, prompt users change password, expired password, stuff like that. You cannot. This was also the only supported method for DEM account enrollments as well without company portal. And with this method, Intune company portal is not needed. But if you're planning to use Azure Conditional Access, then you need to install it. Obviously, we already knew this point. Okay. And then there is ADE without user affinity shared iPad mode. Again, we are going to see this using. So this mode is actually supposed to be used if you want to customize the device and make sure that it is actually a shared device which is used by various people. It is userless, or I mean, in this case, it is with user affinity but shared iPad. So it is, I mean, a specific user is using this device, but then he's passing on the device to the next person, like maybe in a school or something like that. Okay, next I wanted to again share a couple of other documentation. The first one is this documentation which talks about this is official Microsoft documentation which talks about the recommended way of enrollment. So let's read this. And over here, you can also see it saying the same point that we have seen in this, right? So what did I tell you guys earlier? What was the recommended way of enrollment? The recommended method of enrollment is setup assistant with modern authentication. And that is exactly what this tech community article is talking about. This is updated as on December 19th, 2023. And it is saying that We have been hard at work to improve the ADE experience through the release of Setup Assistant with modern authentication and some other features. Right? Assistant with modern authentication for ADE was the planned replacement for the previous method of enrollment that we have. And over here we are saying that that is the recommended way of enrolling a device as well. So over here it is saying that initially we thought that running the company portal in single app mode, this is the guided access mode, which we are not supporting and not recommended anymore. Earlier we thought that we would keep this around, but then there was a change from Apple, and Apple removed this functionality in 14.6. So since Apple removed this functionality, Microsoft also officially said that this mode is no longer supported. Therefore, we are officially stating that move to setup assisted with modern authentication. How do you, and there are many advantages of doing this. You can make use of company conditional access and stuff like that. How do you do this? Later on in the article, we are saying that it's just a change in the profile, right? So over here in the drop down, you can choose it, you can choose and change it to setup assisted with modern authentication, or alternatively, you can create a new enrollment profile. Okay, so what is the moral of the story here? Moral of the story is we have a tech community article updated as on December 2023, which is explicitly saying that move to setup assistant with modern authentication for your ADE device enrollment. This is the way for you to enroll the devices, and this is not the way for you to enroll the devices, as in don't use VPP with single app mode. Now, there is one other article which I wanted to highlight over here as well. So this is the article link, and let me just open it up. This is again December 19, 2023. This is the other announcement over here also. First, it's saying the same thing, that we have announced that running company portal application in single app mode until authentication, that is the guided access mode, is not supported flow by us anymore because it's coming from Apple, right? So right now what we have to do is change this to setup assistant with modern authentication. And when you do that, you have an option of await final configuration. We already know what await final configuration is, right? It's like an ESP blocking the device so that all the important security policies and app push commands are coming down to the device, right? So it's telling us to make use of this. And along with this, there is one other device configuration policy that you should target. This device configuration policy enables SSO. So you just have to go to device configuration profile, and over there in the SSO type extension, just put in Azure AD, and then add these two key value pairs, right? And so these are the only change that we are suggesting. The second change that we are doing over here, this is for making sure that seamlessly SSO happens in the device while you launch any application, and then it registers the device to Azure as well, right? So long story short, what this documentation is saying is, if you have a single app mode with company portal user affinity running, move it to setup assistant with modern authentication, make use of await final config, add these device configuration profiles so that you can make use of SSO, and you will be impacted if this was your initial setting wherein you had run company portal in single app mode set to yes, change it to no. So it is saying that if the authentication method is company portal and run company portal in single app mode setting is set to no, then you are all good. But if it is set to yes, then you need to change this to no, so that the single app mode is not implemented. And then the recommendation is making a new ADE profile with this setting, and removing the old one. Okay. And as we see over here, it also says that since from next year, that is from 2024, for when you make a new profile, you won't be able to save this option. I mean, you won't be able to save a profile with this option. You are able to right now, although it's not recommended, but from next year, you won't be able to do this because the support has ended. So I just wanted to take some time and highlight these two official recommendation that is coming from Microsoft. Multi-factor authentic, when if you're using, again, you're not supposed to use company portal user affinity and single app mode or guided access mode, but if you are using it, then multi-factor authentication is not supported. Why is MFA not supported? Because you won't receive MFA on that device. Uh, because you cannot switch the application, right? It will run in company portal only. So for that, you need to make use of a second device so that you can get MFA and make use of it. Again, this was not a recommended way. So if you are looking at this nugget and then planning on which way to implement for ADE enrollment, then as I have already said many times, make use of setup assistant with modern authentication. Okay, now there is another recommendation and recent change that has happened. I am not going to talk about this right now. First, I want to switch to the demo, because if I talk about this option right now, it's going to cause a lot of confusion. So I'm going to skip these screens and we are going to talk about the demo first. Let's switch to the demo. Let's see everything that we have spoken about live in action. And then I will talk about the recent change that has happened. All right, so now let's start with the demo. And the very first thing that I'm going to do in the demo is we are going to go to the Intune portal and do the configurations. So let me bring up the slide again here real quick. This is what we have already seen. In the configuration steps, we had containerized this into two parts. One was the setup that we had to do at the Intune portal, and second was the setup that we have to do at the ABM or the ASM portal. And we are going to follow the same methodology over here. So let's go to the Intune portal first and do the prerequisite. So I'm at the Intune portal here, and what we have to do is we have to go to devices, and then we are going to go into iOS or iPad OS, because we are talking about ADE now, which is for iOS or iPad OS or Mac OS. And then I'm going to go to iOS, iPad OS enrollment. And this is the page wherein, this is the pane wherein we do the configuration or the setup. Now there are two things that we have to set up. One is the Apple push notification certificate, or the APNS certificate. This is mandatory for doing any iOS enrollment to any MDM. So if we are doing enrollment with any other MDM also, the APNS has to be set up. It is a very simple very simple process. Again, the same analogy. We download something from here, upload that something into Apple's portal, and we download something from there and upload that something into Intune's portal, so that Intune and that Apple's website can both talk with each other and be in sync. So if I click over here right now, I already have an Apple Push MDM certificate. It tells you when was it last updated. It tells you the expiration as well. It tells you the subject ID, serial number of the certificate, stuff like that. If you have to create it, again, it's very easy. You download that something, which in this case is a CSR from here, and then you go to the Apple's website. You download this something, and you upload this into the Apple's website, and then you download a PEM file from Apple's website and you upload it over here. Again, very simple, just a one-time process, has to be renewed every year. Now, once you have set up this APNS is needed not just for ADE enrollment, but for any Apple enrollment to your tenant. Once you have done this, then the next step is configuring the ADE or DEP token. And that needs to be done over here. You see this blade which says that managed ADE or automated device enrollment with Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager. And then you have Apple Configurator as well. I am going to talk about Apple Configurator in a different dedicated session. So I'm going to click on Enrollment Program Tokens. Right now you see I do not have any token over here. I'm going to click on Add, and then again the same analogy for DEP token also. We download something from here, upload that something into ABM or ASM, and we download something from ABM or ASM and we upload it to Intune's portal under DEP token, so that both can talk with each other. We have already seen the significance of this in the flow. So it's very easy. We just have to grant Microsoft permission, and then we have an option of downloading the public key. So I just click over here and the public key gets downloaded, I can go into the folder and I can see it's nothing but just a PEM file. You can even open the PEM file in a notepad as well and see its content. Okay, so we have downloaded the PEM file. What next? The next step is we have to go to the Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager portal and upload this PEM file. So let me bring up another browser and then go to Apple School Manager. I'm going to log into this. And once you have logged in, let me just give you a tour of the portal. So again, this Apple School Manager, similar as Apple Business Manager, is just a portal. And from this portal, we are predominantly doing a couple of things. First, we are able to see the devices that are assigned to our instance, and then we can assign that device to a MDM server, and that MDM server would be for a specific Intune tenant or some other tenant of some other MDM. Okay, so at the users blade, we can see all the users that are created in the ABM or ASM portal. These users are the admins who can log into the ABM or ASM portal and can do whatever they need to do. Okay, and then there are devices. If you go into devices, you can see all the devices that are there. Over here you can see there are 77 devices added. So let's say that I am an organization and I have purchased 1,000 devices. So my reseller is going to add those 1,000 devices to the Apple School Manager, and over here I will be then able to see all the 1,000 devices. Once I'm able to see those 1,000 devices, then the rest has to be done by me. When I say me, I mean the admin. He has to assign these devices to a specific MDM server and stuff like that. But this is where you see the devices, and then there is something called assignment history as well. So every time a device gets added to the ABM or ASM by the reseller, you will see an entry over here. Or let's say you use something like an Apple configurator and you add the device manually. Let's say it was a personal device which you want to convert it to ADE device now, which I will show in the next nugget. So that also you can see in the assignment history. Let's say that you are assigning any MDM server to a specific device. You will also be able to see in the assignment history. So this assignment history is just like the audit logs that we have in the Intune portal, right? Pretty much like that. You can see a lot of assignment that has been done by the admin over here. On the left hand side bottom, you can see the name of your user, the person who is logged in right now. If I click on this, then the place to go is preferences. I've gone to the preferences, and now on the right hand side, you see there is my profile, wherein I can see the details of my profile. There is organization information, there is organization settings, there is payment and billing, account directory sync, and stuff like that. And then the important one, over here we see there is something called your MDM servers. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a MDM server. So I'm going to click on add, and over here let's name this server EAI underscore demo. And once you have named the MDM server, you have to upload the PEM file that we downloaded from the Intune portal. So I upload the PEM file over here. Once you have uploaded the PEM file, then you have to save this, and then you have to download a server token from here, which you are again going to upload in the Intune portal so that both can talk with each other. So I'm going to click on the option which says allow this MDM server to release devices. PEM file has been uploaded. I just click on save. Okay. So over here we see EI demo has been done, and I have an option to download a token. So I'm going to click on download token. It gives me a warning that downloading a new server token will reset your existing one. You will need to upload it to your MDM server. I'm going to do that. Click on download token, and then you see that a P7M file again is downloaded over here. So let me just see this. This is the file in my downloads. And again, I'm just opening this file in Notepad. You can see a lot of information over here. It shows you the content type. The content is encoded using base 64, and then what exactly the content is. This is the content in the encrypted format. So the token has been downloaded from here. Now what we need to do is we need to go back to the Intune portal and we need to upload that token. So I'm just going to upload that token over here, and then EI demo is uploaded, and then next we have to enter an Apple ID as well. This Apple ID is actually the ID that this is just a suggestion if you would call it. So let's say that you need to renew this token at a later point of time, but you don't remember who had actually created the token. So for that, what we can do is we can enter the Apple ID which is used to generate this token at the bottom. You can enter any information over here. Let me just enter my Apple ID and then next and then create. So over here you see it just said that the token synced. Whenever you create the token, an instant sync is going to start. Over here it says that the token is not shared with Microsoft School Data Sync. I don't want to set that up now. School Data Sync is a feature, if you would say, in Intune for education. If you want, you can set it up to allow. You won't see this option if you're using ABM, Apple Business Manager. Since I'm using ASM, therefore I see this option. And then you see this option which says that you can trigger a sync manually as well. As I said, you will get this option every 15 minutes, but whenever you are making any assignment, then instantly a sync happens. Okay, so back at the portal over here, and at the portal here, you can see that under your MDM servers, I can see all the MDM servers, and one of the MDM servers over here is the MDM server that I have just created, that is EAI demo, right? All right, then we have created an APNS. We have created a ADE or a DEP token in Intune, and we have created a MDM server in the ASM portal, and now my Intune and my MDM server both are talking with each other. So now I'm back at the portal, and this is the device that I have. So let's say that this is a test device which you have added, or maybe this is one of the device which the reseller has added to your portal. So all you have to do is search with the serial number of the device, which I just did. It's an iPhone 7. It's telling me all the information. And over here, I have an option which says edit MDM server. And this is from where I can assign this device to a MDM server. And what is that MDM server? That MDM server correlates to the DEP token in my Intune instance, right? So I click on edit MDM server and then assign to the following MDM servers, and then it's going to give me a list of all the MDM servers present in this ASM or ABM instance present in this portal. So if from the drop down, I can select any MDM server that I want to. I just selected one, and then I'm just going to click on OK. And then it is going over here. It's going to tell me which is the MDM server assigned to this device. So this is the name of the device. This is the MDM server that I have created. I can click on it and it will take me to the MDM server as well. So when I click on it, it takes me to the MDM server. It tells me when was it created, whom was it created by, and when was it last connected, which it was today. So all I have done until now is again in the ASM or ABM portal, I have assigned a device to a MDM server. And now, since this ASM instance is talking with my Intune instance via DEP token, what is going to happen now is when I go to my Intune portal, I will start seeing this device. So let me switch back to the portal now. So I'm here at the portal again, going to go to iOS devices and then iOS iPadOS. Enrollment Program token, and then you see two tokens over here, the token that I have recently created, and this is an old token which is expired. I have just not deleted it from here, but if I click on it, it tells me that the token has expired. I have an option of renewing the token, and the process to renew the token is again the same. I don't want to renew this token. I just want to leave it as is. I just wanted to show it to you. Now, this is my main token, which is active. I'm just going to click on it. And if I go into devices, it's going to show me all the devices that are linked with this token. Meaning, it is going to show me all the devices which were assigned to the MDM server over here. So understand the chronology here, guys. The device comes to the portal, the ABM or ASM portal. We assign that device to a specific MDM server. This MDM server is talking with a specific token, a specific DEP token over here. And that is how the device from the ASM or ABM portal is coming in our Intune portal. And I have an option of running a sync whenever I want to. So now in the devices section, I can see the device. When you click on the device, it tells you a lot of information. But right now, I just want to see whether the device is present or not. So if there were 1,000 devices purchased by you, and all those 1,000 devices are used in the are being used in the same tenant, then after all those 1,000 devices have been uploaded in the ABM or ASM portal, after the sync has been run and MDM server has been assigned, you should be able to see all those 1,000 devices over here. All right. So the devices are showing up over here. So far, so good. What is the next step? The next step is a DEP profile or a ADE profile needs to be assigned to this device. So let me go back into my presentation here real quick. So setting up of APNS and integrating with Apple DEP, this is something we have done. Integration at the DEP portal also is something that we have done. We have created the MDM server and stuff like that. We have added the device and added to MDM server. All that is done. Now, what needs to be done is these two steps. We need to create a ADE or a DEP profile and assign it to the device. So that is the only step that is pending. How do we do that? When you are inside your program tokens, over here there is a section called profiles, and this shows you all the profiles, all the ADE profiles that are created in this tenant. And what we are going to do now is we are going to create a new profile. This profile is going to configure the out of the box experience of the device and is going to enroll the device as well. So I am going to create all the profiles that we have spoken about. So if you guys remember, this was the diagram that we referred to in the theory section, which talks about the different profile creation methodologies. We can do with user affinity, without user affinity, with company portal, without company portal, and stuff like that. We are going to do all of these right now. So let me do this. What we have to do is we have to click on create profile, and then we are going to do this for iOS or iPad OS. Let's name this profile. So let's call this EAI, and then underscore. We are going to name the profile on the basis of the settings that are there in the profile so that it makes sense. So I'm going to leave the name as this right now. I'm going to add a suffix later on depending upon the settings that we choose. Now, first let's do something called enroll with user affinity, because I want a user to be associated with the device. So I'm doing enroll with user affinity. Now the authentication method can be company portal or setup assistant with modern authentication. So first let's do company portal, and we don't need to push company portal application to the device. As we have chosen company portal over here, company portal application is automatically going to be pushed to the device. And then it also even says that if you go click on this I next to authentication method, it tells you what this setting is all about. It then even says that select this decides how the users first sign in is going to happen and the authentication with the Intune is going to happen, so that user association happens with the device. If you use multi-factor authentication, then use company portal. The app will automatically install in the device at the time of enrollment, and we don't need to push the application. And then it just talks about few other things. Now it tells us whether we want, now you want to push company portal application and you want to do user affinity enrollment. Okay, very well. Now how do you want to push company portal application? There are two methodologies that you have. You can use a VPP token, or you don't need to use a VPP token. It is up to you. If you want to use VPP token, then you have to create a VPP token beforehand. So since I already have a VPP token, or for first, let me do not use VPP token. Now the next option is supervised. Um, as you see, this option is grayed out, and that is because as I had mentioned in the theory section, now all the ADE enrollments are supervised enrollments. It's asking us whether we want to do logged enrollment or not. If you go into the I, it tells you what logged enrollment is. It blocks user from removing the management profile. So when we go into the settings app in the iOS device, there is the management profile that gets installed, right? If you set this option to yes, then the end user will not have an option of removing that management profile. And then there is an option of syncing with other computers. I'm going to discuss this in detail later on. And then upload certificates. If you want to, you can apply a device naming template as well, just like we can in case of Autopilot as well. So let's say so let's go with user affinity company portal serial number, and let me just copy this, go to previous, and then the name of the profile is also EAI underscore user affinity with company portal application. Everything looks good. Next, over here, we are deciding how exactly the out of the box experience of the device is going to look like. Which of these out of the box screens the device is going to see, and which of these screens the device is not going to see. So I'm going to toggle all of them to hide. I just want to show the Apple ID. That's it. I don't want to see. I don't want the end user to see any other screen. Over here, you have to set up the department. Let me just set it to EAI, and the department phone number is as well. So I'm just putting in my phone number here. All right, everything looks good. Next, and then create. Once I have created this profile, this is the profile that I have created. I can assign a device. I have to assign a device as well. Over here, it says that the profile has not been assigned to any device. If you click on assigned devices, it tells you that this profile is assigned to which device. So this is assigned devices. This is assigned devices. So nothing has been assigned. Therefore, you don't see anything over here. I have an option of assigning a device. That's what I'm going to do over here. I'm going to click on assign device, add a device. It's going to show me all the ADE devices that are present in this tenant. I'm going to click on this and then click on add, and then click on save. So the device has been assigned to this ADE profile now. If I go into assigned devices, uh, very soon the device should show up over here. There you go. It says that reset is required because only after we reset the device, the ADE profile is going to come down. Okay, so from a setup standpoint, everything as of now looks good. The only thing that we have to do next is create a dynamic device group. So what I want to do is any device that is enrolled by this profile should get added to a specific group, let's say, so that I can make use of that group later on. So what I'm going to do, just going to copy this. I'm just going to go to groups and create a group. So let's go to all groups and then do a new group, and let's call this EAI ADE Group. Okay, and The membership type is going to be dynamic device, and there has to be a query or a logic on which basis the devices are going to get added to this group. So I just have to click on property, wherein I can say that enrollment profile name equals the name of that profile. So this is the name of the profile. This is the enrollment profile name. So I just have to click over here, and over here you see that the syntax gets added automatically. I just have to click on save and then create. All right. So the device is now going to get added to this group. All right. So now all we have to do is switch to the device, power it on, make sure it goes through the out of the box screen, and then see the experience over there. All right, so I'm at the device now, and as you can see, the device is at the out of the box hello screen. This is where the device should be. If we want to do it in an existing device, then we will have to go to the settings and reset it. Because anything like Autopilot or ADE enrollment or any kind of zero touch enrollment can happen only if either it's a brand new device or if it's an existing device. You have a reset of the device, and now I'm just going to click on next, and then I'm going to select the language. Now you see this screen which says that you want to quick start, so I'm going to click on setup manually, and then I want to just click on continue, and then I have to connect to the Wi-Fi. The screens that we have seen until now, the 4 or 5 screens that we have seen until now, these are all mandatory screens, and we have no control over those screens because right now the ADE profile has not come down to the device because we have not even connected to the internet yet. So I'm just going to connect to the internet real quick. Okay, the device is connected to the internet, and now you can see it says that it may take a few minutes for the device to activate your iPhone. This is the time wherein the device is reaching out to the Apple activation service, and the device is checking what kind of device it is. Then from Apple activation service, the request will go to the ABM or ASM. The device is going to be told that you are a special device and you need to go to this endpoint, which in this case would be of Intune, in order to download your MDM profile. So over here it says that enrolling in remote management will allow this iPhone to be managed by Microsoft Intune, and it's telling me to download the remote management profile. I just click on next, and then this is it says that installing configuration from Microsoft Intune, and then you see the await final configuration screen. Now this is the screen that we have already spoken about. It's like an ESP for iOS, and this is the point wherein everything that is applicable on the device is going to come down after the device is enrolled successfully. So we are just going to wait for a couple of minutes, and then we are going to see what happens next. And there you go, it has downloaded the AD. Right now the enrollment obviously has not happened. All that has happened is the device has downloaded the ADE profile. So I have to, and in the ADE profile, if you guys remember, uh, we had chosen to show the Apple ID screen, and that is the only screen we had decided to show. Hence, this is the only screen we are seeing right now. Let's see what happens after this. So I'm going to enter the Apple ID and its password. Going to enter the OTP. It's asking me for the old passcode. Okay, and there you go. We are at the home screen of the device. Now, let's go to the settings, and then let's go to general, and then let's go to VPN and device management. And over here, you can see the management profile is installed in the device. If I go into more details, I can see all the certificates that has come down to the device from Intune. Now, right now, you see that there is no company portal application present in the device, and I'll show you guys later that if I were to go to the Intune portal right now, I would be able to see this device present, but there would be no UDA established. So the device is enrolled, but there is no user affinity established in this device. The company portal application is going to come down to the device in some time, and once it does, then we will be logging into the company portal. So it's telling me to hit the home screen. I don't want to do that. And there you see at the background, it's downloading the company portal application. So let's just wait for it to finish. But right now, there is nothing stopping me from opening the browser and going into any website that I want to. Let's say that this is a website that is supposed to be blocked by the admin. But right now, even though the device is enrolled, it is not blocked and I can do whatever I want. Hence, there was this single app mode or guided access mode that we spoke about earlier, which is something that I'm also going to show. So over here, you can see company portal application is downloaded. I am going to click on company portal. I'm going to click on sign in. Just a reminder, the device is enrolled, but the Azure AD registration has not happened. So I'm going to click on continue and then enter the credentials, enter the password here, and then click on sign in.
At this point of time, if I come to the Intune portal, I can see that the device is there, but the primary UPN is not there. The naming convention is correct as it should be. And if I go into the hardware section, you see that the Azure AD device ID is 000 because I have not logged into the company portal and entered my username and password. Hence, the UDA has not established yet. So let's quickly switch back to the device.
So it's just telling us that get notified, don't lose access, just going to click on OK. It's going to make sure company portal gives me the notification that's needed. Now, this is important. Until now, we have just logged into company portal, but the following steps have not been performed yet. So these steps are very important. I have to click on begin, and then I have created categories in my portal. This is an optional screen. If you haven't created enrollment categories, then this will not come up. Let me just select something, and then it says that get your device managed. That is done. I just have to click on continue. It's going to check device settings, and this is also going to evaluate the device's compliance. So at the bottom you can see there is a status bar as well, which tells me what exactly the status for this check is. And that is pretty much it, guys. This is a usual general flow of a user affinity based enrollment of a ADE device. And you saw that it was pretty much intuitive and seamless, right? The end user unboxed the device, powered it on for the very first time, next, connected to the Wi-Fi. Then the ADE profile came down and the management profile got installed, and whatever screens I had made visible in the ADE profile in Intune, only those screens were visible. And then I was at the home screen, and whatever apps are pushed to the device will come down. In this case, since I was doing user affinity with down to the device, and I was all good. Okay. It says that settings has been checked. I just have to click on done. And now if I go into devices, it shows me the device. This is the current device that I'm using. I have an option of checking the status whenever I want to again.
And now I am back at the portal, and if I refresh this, you see that the primary UPN now shows up as the user who has enrolled the device, and then we see the compliance is also evaluated. If I click on this device and if I go to hardware now, you will see that the device should now have an Intune device ID as well as which it already did, but now it also has a Azure AD device ID. So since it now has an Azure AD device ID, if I go into groups and if I check the group that I had created, let me see if the device is now part of that group or not. So I'm just clicking on the group and let me go and see the members of this group, and there you go. This device is now a member of the group because in the dynamic rule membership, I had said that any device which is enrolling using this profile should get added to this group. All right, so far so good. The device got enrolled. I wanted to start with a very basic demo of first device so that we understand what exactly the end user's experience is and the setup that the admin needs to do. Okay, so now let's spice things up a little. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create another ADE profile, and this time we are going to make some changes to it. So I'm going to go to iOS, iPadOS, and then the DEP token, and then I'm going to go to profiles. Until now I have made a user affinity profile with using company portal application. Now I want to make another profile. Let's call this ADE user affinity. The rest we will fill in later. Let me just do a next, and then the user affinity is going to be enrolled with user affinity, and over here the authentication mode is going to be setup assistant. So in this case I am going to show you guys the difference. When the authentication is set to setup assistant legacy, then you will see that the end user will have to enter his UPN at the setup screen itself, and it won't be happening at the later screen. The authentication method is set to setup assistant, and then install company portal, yes, install company portal through VPP. If you use this token, it's not mandatory. You can don't use VPP as well, or you can use this token if you want. Supervised is yes, and then everything else is pretty much the usual. And let's use a naming convention, and I am going to call this, let's call this EAI underscore user affinity underscore setup assistant, and then the serial number. All right, looks good. Logged enrollment, let's set that to yes, and sync with other computers, let's do an allow all. All right, everything looks good. Let's do a next. We'll enter the department name and the phone number. We are going to turn everything off, and then next, and then create. Once this has been created, I am going to assign a device to this profile. So before I assign it, let me quickly change the name of this. So let me go to properties and edit and the naming convention that I wanted to follow. So EAI user affinity setup assistant. Review and save. Now I'm going to assign it to a device. So for that, I'm going to go to assign device and then add device, and then select the device that I want to assign it to this. Device has been assigned. If I go into assigned devices, now it says that a restart is required. Now let me go back into devices, and then I just want to delete the entry, even though the name is going to change now, but since this device is no longer needed, I'm just going to delete this entry. All right, now this time I am going to power on the device, and I'm going to record everything from scratch, and we are going to see the console logs in the device, which is going to show everything that I have shown in the logs earlier.
Alright guys, so I'm back at the device, and on the right hand side you can see the device. This is live, and on the left hand side you can see the console logs that I am collecting against this device. So whatever is happening in the device, the console log will tell us, since this device is connected to this MacBook, and in the MacBook we already have console option, from wherein I can either choose the MacBook or I can choose the iPhone. And you can see how fast this is going on, right? I mean, we haven't done anything. It's been just a few seconds, and there is already more than 5,000 or 6,000 messages. So we have to do this quite quickly. So I am just clearing everything, and let's start with the enrollment flow, and then we will search the logs and make sure that whatever we saw in the flow in the theory correlates with it. So clearing it for the one final time, and then let's go. So just clicking on English, just clicking on India as the region. So setup manually option, just going to click on setup manually, just clicking on continue. I have to choose the Wi-Fi. We already know these screens. Just going to quickly select the Wi-Fi. Okay, Wi-Fi has been connected. The device is now reaching out and getting itself activated. So it is saying that going to take a few minutes, and then once it is done, then we are going to see what do we
get in the logs. So once the activation is finished, so right now you see that the activation is finished and we are at the next screen, right? So in the console logs, let's check for activation state. Okay, over here you can see that it is checking um everything related to activation, whether it is activation status change, whether it is bricked or jailbroken or not, and buddy activate activation state has changed, and this is the one activation state changing from K provisioned to K activated. So the device is now activated, and then again over here we see that the device is activated, and the current activation state, and we have to see the timestamp as well, and make sure that whatever is happening, we get a timestamp of when it is happening, because otherwise you might get confused with what is going on and what is not. Okay, so we have seen that the activation state is showing as activated as seen over here, which correlates with what we are seeing in the device. Okay, so let me clear this, and the logs are still being connected, which is good. So now I am going to click on next, which is going to download the MDM profile in this device. We have selected setup assistant authentication. For authentication we selected setup assistant, therefore it's asking me for the username and password in this screen itself. Remember guys, this is the UPN that the user has to enter, not the Apple ID. Okay, so all this happened. Let's quickly go back over here and see whether the MDM profile has installed or not. So if I see in the, if I scroll down, if I go to general, and if I go to VPN and device management, the profile is over here, right? But how do I substantiate whether the profile is actually installed or not? So let me check with okay, so over here you see it says that beginning profile installation, and then there are many other logs as well, which is coming up. You see it is saying that beginning, it's installing a lot of profiles, and okay, so this is the message that we see. It says that beginning profile installation from microsoft.profiles.mdm. So the profile was downloaded successfully. We have already seen this message in the logs as well when we were at the theory section. Now over here you see that again company portal has been downloaded. The same drill again. I log into company portal, that's when the UDA is established. If I don't log in, the UDA is not established. Now I will show you guys the console logs for a couple of other scenarios, but there are two things that I wanted to predominantly call out. Let's first quickly switch back to our portal.
All right, so I'm back at the portal, and over here you can see that the device for the second time got enrolled, followed the right naming convention, that is user affinity using setup assistant. I can see the serial number of the device as well after that, and everything looks good. Now, what I want to call out is the difference between the first profile and the second profile. So until now, we have seen two profiles. First is user affinity with company portal, and the second one was user affinity with setup assistant. This is the user affinity with company portal, wherein you have selected where the user must authenticate his company portal. We have not used VPP. This is user affinity. And the second one is also user affinity, but the user is authenticating in setup assistant. Now, let me bring back the diagram here, and out of all these methods, what we have done is we have done the first one and we have done this one. So we have done this. The first one was with user affinity with company portal that we saw at the first case. Then we saw with setup assistant legacy and company portal. If you don't wish to have company portal, that is also absolutely fine. But the main difference between these two is the we are deciding where exactly the user is authenticating himself. If we select setup assistant legacy with company portal, then the authentication, as we just saw, is happening at the setup assistant screen, that is during the OOBE screen. At that point, the user is not having company portal downloaded and present in his device. However, if we have company portal, if we select user affinity with company portal, then the user has to go inside the company portal application, and there he has to provide his credentials so that the UDA is established. Okay. Now the next one that we are going to see is with company portal through VPP plus single app mode. So let's go to the portal and let's make a profile for with user affinity with company portal through VPP and a single app mode. And then again, we are going to see the end device behavior as well as check the console logs. All right, so the profile that we are going to make now is company portal through VPP and single app mode. So I'm back at the portal and let's make a profile real quick. Let's call this CP. No, let's call this user affinity underscore company portal underscore VPP underscore single app, so that I can understand what exactly is this profile going to do. Just next, user affinity is going to be enroll with user affinity. And then as you see, uh, again, this is just a difference I want to point out, that the authentication method is company portal. Okay. Now, how do you want to push company portal? If you don't want to use VPP, then you don't have the option of doing the single app mode or guided access mode thing. You will see that just when I switch to use the token, then magically this option appears, which says that run the company portal in single app mode until authentication. Okay. And then if you click on the I, it says that company portal will automatically launch in single app mode and require users to authenticate. And you have to turn this to yes. Okay. And it is supported for iOS version 13.11.3 and above. I'm going to do logged enrollment, sequel the computers allow all, and let's use a naming convention of, and before serial, let's use the same thing. That is user affinity company portal VPP single app and then the name. Okay, everything looks good. And then let's toggle everything to off. I don't want to show anything. And the department is EAI and the phone number. You might say, why is this phone number needed? I mean, this is just a field which is mandatory. Even if you, I mean, this is it is not going to be validated anywhere. So even if you enter 0000, it still works. It's just a field that needs to be entered. That's all. So I've hidden everything, looks good, and then create. And now let's assign this profile to a to the same device. So this is my profile. So before I assign it, just one quick thing. I want to use a suffix here so that we don't get confused. Let's call this EAI underscore whatever it is then. Okay, cool. And now let's assign this real quick. So assign devices, and then this is our device, add, save. And now if I go to assigned devices, the device should show up over here any second. There you go. The device now shows up. Let's quickly switch back to the device now, see the behavior and on how the behavior is different with single app mode running with VPP, and we'll check the logs as well.
All right, so back at the device now, selecting the language, selecting the location, and then set up manually. We have already seen all these screens, so I'll just go through all of these very quickly. And there you go, we are back at the home screen of the device. But now you see it gives me this message that guided access app unavailable, please contact your administrator. And no matter what I try to do, I am not able to do anything in the device. So I cannot even lock the device, or if I try to launch any application, the applications are not getting launched. But now just when company portal gets installed, you see it's saying that company portal is installing because the guided access app is now available. Now let me try to open any other, you will see that just when company portal gets installed, it is going to launch automatically. So I'm just going to wait for now and show you guys that I am not launching company portal myself, and you guys will see what happens. And while this happens, let's check the logs again real quick. The logs that we have already seen right now, like the activation, so activated, if I do an enter, you are going to see the same activation related logs. Over here we see the device got activated, like we have seen in the previous scenario. Now after activation, what has happened is the profile has got installed. So again, just like we have seen before, Microsoft dot profiles dot mdm. Over here you can see that the mdm profile was also installed. For some reason we are no longer able to see the device reaching out to the Intune endpoint in the console logs anymore. Probably you might have to take a fiddler trace, but earlier if I would check for manage.microsoft.com, I would right now you see that there are a lot of polling activities that are going on, right? So I mean, devices just checking out with the Intune service and just making sure it's receiving the policy. Now I am checking for Intune company portal, and over here you will be able to see the bundle ID for company portal and the fact that the company portal application got installed in the device successfully. So that is also substantiated. This is important because let's say that it's not happening the way it should in a device, then by looking at the console logs we can check all these steps in the same chronology, whether the device got activated, whether it downloaded and installed the mdm profile, whether if it was in guided access mode, or even if it wasn't, if the UDA is not established, whether company portal was even downloaded or not, and stuff like that, right? So this is why I am showing all these steps. And over here you can also see, if I checked with the keyword app is being installed, it says that the company portal application was installed, hence it's giving us in the, it's telling that clearly in the console logs as well. And now if I check with the word GAX, it's going to tell me everything related to guided access that has happened in the device, right? So if I scroll all the way to the top, it will show me the oldest logs and everything related to guided access. So by looking at this log, we can confirm when did the device receive the guided access mode, that is when did it enter the single app mode, and when did it exit out of it. And over here, if you, there are some other keywords, so we need to know the keywords. There is I mean the guided access mode, or in some places you will see the verb it's single app mode. So over here, if I check with single app mode, you see that set single app mode app id to com.microsoft.company portal. It is setting the single app mode to the company portal application, so that only company portal application is running in the device like we saw. And as we are seeing in the screen, the company portal mode, the company portal application gets launched in the device automatically. I have to click on sign in, I have to enter my user credentials, and that's when the UDA is going to establish. Now the interesting point here is, right now even though I see company portal launched automatically in the device, I only have an option of clicking on signing in. I do not have an option of exiting this application, meaning I cannot make use of this device or do anything in the device until I finish the Azure AD registration.
Okay, and just a very quick reminder, guys, the mode that we just saw right now, which was using user affinity with company portal through VPP plus single app mode, which gets us to the guided access mode, wherein company portal is holding the device just like an ESP for Windows, and the end user is not able to make use of the device, which is this mode that we talked about in the theoretical section. This mode is not the supported or not the recommended mode from Microsoft. Um, And we have even said in our documentation, as we spoke about in the theory section, that this mode is soon going to go away. So in the first half of 2024, we are removing the ability and functionality of using this mode, and you will no longer be able to save a profile if you are wanting to create this mode. So recommendation is, don't I mean not making use of this mode and migrating to setup assistant with modern authentication. And that is the next demo that we are going to use. So in the enrollment methodologies, when we talk about with enrollment user affinity, now we are going to do with setup assistant, with Apple setup assistant with modern authentication. So let's first quickly create a profile for that. So I am back at the portal, and over here I'm going to go to iOS and iPad OS. Let's call this setup assist. Let's call this EAI setup assistant modern authentication uh, recommended profile. So it's the recommended profile. I'm just using the same naming convention. And then next, this is going to be enroll with user affinity. And over here, authentication methodology is going to be setup assistant with modern authentication. It says that it says that the devices should be running with iPad OS 13.0 or later. We have an option of installing company portal as well on these devices. Now, if you want to install company portal, you can either use VPP or not use VPP token. So since I have one, I'm using it. If you don't have one, don't use VPP token. Still, company portal will automatically get installed. You don't need to manually push it from the apps section in Intune. And over here, just want to highlight that you don't have an option of not installing company portal in this methodology. So over here, it is asking you, how do you want to install the company portal, whether you want to use VPP or not use VPP. But in both the cases, company portal will get installed in the device, and that is why this is one of the recommended method from Microsoft, because if company portal is getting installed in the device and the end user is logging into it, the device is going to be Azure AD registered. And the advantages of Azure AD registering the device, we already know. You can make use of conditional access and prompt the user to change his password and stuff like that, right? So supervised mode, yes. Logged enrollment, yes. Sync computers, allow all. And then again, naming convention, we have already seen all these, right? Okay, so just name the device, just name the profile, toggle all, next, and create. Assigned. Now let's go to the profile and let's just assign it to a device. Has been assigned to a device. And now let's just validate it. And there you go, looks good. So now let's quickly switch to the device and then see what the behavior is. All right, so back at the device, just did a reset of the same and then set up manually. Continue. We are just going to very quickly follow the same process, which I'm going to fast forward. And there you go. In this case, you see that there is no company portal that is present in the device. And this is not exactly a normal setup assistant screen that you would see, like the one that we did with setup assistant legacy. In that case, the screen wherein the end user had to enter his UPN was different. In this case, the screen where the user has to enter his UPN looks different. It has a browser like feel to it. And there you go. We are at the home screen. Now company portal will eventually come down to the device, but the user has entered his UPN, so the UDA is already established at this point of time. Now, over here it is saying that it wants to install applications. However, I have not provided my Apple ID. Therefore, it's not able to install some of the applications. It's telling me to provide my Apple ID. Now, I could have shown the screen to provide Apple ID in the out of the box as per the ADE profile, but I did not. Therefore, I have to do it later on. So I have to go to settings and enter the Apple ID here. Okay, so Apple ID has been provided. Over here you can see I have provided the Apple ID, and obviously if I go into general, I'll be able to see the MDM profile also installed over there because the device is enrolled. If I go into apps, it's showing company portal apps, which is installing right now. And if there are any other applications pushed to this device, then obviously they will also come down. I hope we have seen and understood how the experience for setup assistant with modern authentication looks like. It's different to what we have seen before. We see a screen in the out of the box itself, which looks like a browser wherein the user has to enter his credentials, very seamless. And now I'm launching the company portal application and signing into that as well. So there you go. This is how the end user experience for setup assistant with modern authentication along with company portal application pushed via VPP should look like. So let's now quickly switch back to the portal.
Alright, so back at the portal, here you can see the naming convention has been followed successfully. EAI, Setup Assistant, Modern Authentication, and then the serial number, the device is compliant, and the UPN is associated with the user. So everything looks good, and as I already said, this method that we used right now, this is the recommended method from Microsoft for enrolling a ADE device with user affinity. That is using setup assistant with modern authentication, which pushes the company portal application as well to the device. Okay, now let's go back and now let's look at the next option. So we have done the first one, we have done the third one, we have done the fifth one, which covers the fourth one as well. Now the next important one is the second one, which is using ADE enrollment with user affinity with Apple Setup Assistant Legacy without the company portal. That is minus company portal. Now this is an important option because there has been some recent changes that has happened with how this option works. So let me quickly go back to the portal and then first create a policy for this, and then I will show you what are the changes that has happened. So very quickly, we'll call this EAI Setup Assistant no CP. And then this is user affinity, right? So we'll enter user affinity as well. So the option that we are talking about over here is enroll with user affinity. Authentication method is setup assistant legacy, and if in the install company portal option you have selected no, then if the company portal is not present in the device, then obviously you cannot make use of the Azure related features, right? Because the device is not going to be registered in the Azure AD. So you can only enforce conditional access policies on the device that have company portal application present in it, right? We already know all of this. Supervised, let's say that yes. Logged enrollment, yes. Sync with other computers, allow all. Now hold on to your horses, guys. I am going to show you guys how is this any different. So apply, okay, all good, next, no, previous, next, and then toggle. Okay, the profile is created. Let's quickly assign devices to it, and then I will explain what is the difference and how is this profile important. And the assigned devices on the devices showing up. Okay, now let's take a look over the properties of the profile and let's try to break it down. We are doing enrollment with user affinity using setup assistant and no company portal is present. We have already seen how this looks like, right? But how is this any different? The difference is over here you have said that no company portal. But what if the end user goes to the app store and downloads the company portal manually and then logs into it? What is going to happen? Well, we have an article just for that. I want to show you guys. Let's say that first you had this setup, this configuration that we are seeing at the back. But later on you realize that, oh, you know what, I want company portal in the devices as well. Or the end user thinks that he needs company portal in the device as well. So what he does is he downloads the company portal from the app store and he logs into it. What is going to happen? Well, let's take a look over this documentation to see what happens. So there has been some change that we had made, that we have made with this MC post. In August, company portal release will be changing the iOS, iPadOS enrollment flow for ADE. The enrollment flow change is only encountered if you have this setting. And what is this setting? The setting that we have in the profile at the back. That is, enroll with user affinity is set to yes, and select where the users must authenticate is set to setup assistant, like you have at the background, and install company portal is set to no, like we have at the background. So if you have these settings, and I do have these settings at the background, then previously what used to happen is, if you would set the install company portal to no as a part of your configuration, users could still install company portal from the store, which would trigger the enrollment when the users would add the serial number. What I mean by that is, if you have this setup, the setup goes through, the end user is at the home screen. Now he goes into the App Store, provides his Apple ID, he downloads the company portal, he logs into the company portal. Then after logging into the company portal, he would get a screen like this, wherein the company portal application will automatically show the serial number of the device, and it will ask whether you want to enroll a device with this serial number, and this serial number would be the serial number of the device that the end user is using. The end user will just have to confirm this. He will just have to click on this and confirm that the serial number of the device that he is using matches the serial number that is being displayed over here. When he does that, then it will then the company portal flow would go through. This is what it was before. Again, I just want to reiterate, if you have, or if you had this setting in your ADE profile, like I have over here, if you had this setting, and if the end user downloaded a company portal application from the App Store and he logged into it, he would see this screen automatically. He won't have to do anything. He would automatically see a screen wherein he would see the serial number of the device, and he has to confirm whether the serial number that he is seeing in the company portal application matches with the actual serial number of the device or not. He just had to confirm that. Now this was the old flow. Now what has happened is, the flow has changed. What is the new flow? That is what this documentation talks about. So again, going back, I just want to make sure that you guys have understood what I'm talking about and what this documentation is talking about. If you, the end user could trigger the enrollment, and over here it says that which would trigger the enrollment where the end user would add in the appropriate serial number. This is what would happen earlier. With this upcoming company portal release, we will be removing that serial number confirmation screen. So moving forward, end user will no longer be able to see this screen. Okay, we have removed this. What have we added? Instead, you would want to create a corresponding app configuration policy to send down along with company portal to ensure that the end user can successfully enroll or make some other change. So I'll talk about what that other change is. So again, earlier the end user would see the serial number screen. Now they are no longer going to see the serial number screen. Now the flow is different. What is the different and the new flow? The different and the new flow is that the admin now has to push a app configuration policy. What is that app configuration policy? The link is over here. If I click on this link, it's talking about the app configuration policy that I have to send. And these are the settings of the app configuration policy that we have to send. I will do all of this very shortly. So as I said, we will have to create a app configuration policy, which is a replacement to the screen that the end user were able to see earlier. So again, moral of the story, if you have these settings in your enrollment profile, then if and now you want that the end user should make use of company portal, log into it and sign in and make use of the Azure AD features, then we will have to push an app configuration policy to it. Or the other option is, in this profile itself, install company portal, set this to yes. That is obvious, right? Right now we have it set it to no, but you can always set it to yes. If you set it to yes, then the end user will never have to download the company portal manually from the app store, and then obviously it's a different use case, right? That is what the last line of this article is talking about. You will have to either create a corresponding app configuration policy and send it down, or set the install company portal to yes, which is what it is over here.
The reason why I'm spending so much of time in explaining this one point is because this is an important feature, and obviously it must be important. That's why Microsoft has a dedicated article and blog on it, right? Okay, so I hope we have understood what this blog is talking about. The flow has changed. If you have this set up as per the new flow, you will have to deploy a app configuration policy, and then if the end user downloads the company portal application and signs into it, everything is going to work. If you don't deploy this app configuration policy, then if the end user is downloading the company portal application and signing into it, then you are going to see errors. So over here you can see, if you have set the install company portal to no, then be aware that the devices will be unable to complete enrollment unless you have created this app configuration policy and assigned the assigned it to the device. Existing enrolled devices will not be affected. And okay, and then let's scroll down. What do I need to do? It says that check the settings and check if you have this configuration. If you have this configuration, if you the recommendation is changing the install company portal from no to yes. If you change it from no to yes, then obviously, as I said, company portal will come down automatically and user doesn't have to do anything. Or as a workaround for this upcoming change, create the app configuration profile as documented. We recommend that all future ADE profiles should say yes to install company portal, meaning for all future profiles that you're going to make, always set this to yes, not to no. Because if you set this to yes, company portal comes down automatically. Okay. All right. So now let's make a profile and repro all these. So I'm back at the portal. I'm at devices, and then let's make a profile. I think we already have a profile. So this is a profile that we already made earlier, which is enroll with user affinity, setup assistant, install company portal is set to no. Let's open this. Enroll with user affinity, setup assistant legacy, install with company portal is set to no. Supervised is yes, everything else is yes. So this is already created. Let's make sure that we are assigning our device to it. Our device is already assigned. We just have to reset the device. So I have some screenshots to show you guys without the app configuration policy. So without the app configuration policy, what happens is, if the end user goes to the app store and manually downloads the company portal application. So that's what I'm doing over here. I'm going into the app store, downloading the company portal, logging into it, and then I see all these screens. And then it's telling me the privacy screen and stuff like that. And over here in the screen, you see that it tries to download the management profile again. And then in the next screen, you see you have to click on allow. It downloads the management profile. You click on continue. And over here, you can see that it is downloading the management profile as well, right? And this is happening because the company portal does not know that the device is already enrolled. It's going through the normal enrollment flow wherein the company portal downloads the management profile. We are going to see that very shortly in the next screen as well. So over here you see that the website is trying to download a configuration profile. The profile downloads, you click on close, then you click on continue. Then it's telling you to install the management profile by going into general and then install. When you go over there, you see that there is one management profile already installed, and then there it has downloaded another management profile, and it is telling you to install the second management profile. And obviously if you try to install it, it gives you an error. And if you go back to the company portal, I mean, you are in this endless loop. It tells you to, the company portal tells you to install the management profile, and installation of management profile fails because a management profile is already installed in the device. So it's like this endless loop that happens. And when does this happen? This happens if you are enrolling a device as a ADE device with setup assistant, and you have not pushed company portal application from the ADE profile, and the end user is downloading the company portal application manually, and he is trying to log into it. So the next slide actually talks about the same thing. If you have this setting that we were just seeing right now in the portal over here, if you have this setting, then the recommendation is you will have to push this app configuration profile. Okay, so we have this setting. Let's see the experience in the device first.
Okay, so I've done a reset of the device and then we are back at the device. Let me just run through this really quickly. Okay, so we are at the home screen, looks good. Let me go to general and then first show you that the management profile is installed and the device is enrolled to Intune. There you go. Looking all good. Now let me add my Apple ID first, and then I as the end user am going to download the company portal application from the App Store and then show you the default behavior when there is no app configuration policy deployed to a device which is enrolling as a ADE device with setup assistant with user affinity without having any company portal application deployed or selected in the ADE profile. Okay, again, the Apple ID has been added. Company portal is not present. I am going to go to the App Store and download the company portal app. So company portal is downloaded and installed. Let me open it. So I as an end user am doing this, obviously. I enter my credentials, it tells me for notification, I tell it to allow, and these are the steps that I have to follow. So I'm clicking on begin, then continue, then it says that if I click on continue, the step 2, that is download management profile, is going to happen. I already know that there is a management profile, so I'm expecting it to fail at some point, but let's see what happens. So just clicking on allow, and then profile has been downloaded. I click on close, and then after the download is complete, click on continue. I'm clicking on continue, then I'm clicking on installing the management profile. So I click on continue, and then it's telling me to go to general and then install it from there. So if I go into settings and then general, now I will be able to see one more profile over there. So general, if I scroll down, VPN and device management, you see at the top it's the old one, and then this is the new management profile. If I click on it and if I install it and install, it is going to fail. It says that a profile installation failed. It is failing because a profile is already installed, right? You cannot have two management profiles from the same MDM or different MDM at the same device at the same point of time. So unless I delete this one, I cannot install this one. So no matter how many times I try, it is going to fail. So if this fails, now if I go back to company portal app, it's going to ask me whether three options. Did you install the profile? Either I can say yes, I installed, which I did not. If not, then go to the settings app and install it. it's giving me an option to download it again. If I click on download again, it will download the management profile again. I don't need to download it again because I know it's already downloaded. Now if it is already downloaded, I need to install it. I cannot install it because I just showed you. But if I click on yes, I installed the profile here, it's going to check whether I have actually installed the management profile which I just downloaded. I haven't done that. It's going to understand that and it's going to give me an error, and I am going to be in this endless loop. And there you go, it gives me this error. I can retry, report, or close. If I click on retry, the same time we come back to the same screen where it's telling me to download the management profile again. So this is the behavior that we see when we are installing the company portal application from the app store manually. Now let's see. So I'm just going to click on ignore, and I'm just going to stop this because we know it's going to follow the same thing over and over again. Now let me switch back to the portal and assign the app configuration policy to this device, and then see the updated flow.
So back at the portal now let's create an app configuration policy applied to the same device and see what the difference in behavior is. So we are going to, I'm at the app configuration policies blade, and then I'm going to do managed devices because the device is managed. And let's call this app config underscore iOS underscore ADE underscore company portal. And then let's copy this, put this in the description. The platform obviously is going to be iOS, iPad OS. And obviously I have to target an application here, right? That you want to target an app configuration policy. Okay, well and good. But to which app this configuration policy is going to apply? So it's going to apply to the Microsoft Intune application. So Microsoft Intune. And when you select Microsoft Intune, you have to make sure that Microsoft Intune store application is coming up over here. And how will the Microsoft Intune store application come up over here? It will only come up if you have actually pushed the Microsoft Intune store app. So just first go into the apps section, and then over here check for Microsoft Intune, and put in a filter for, let's say, put in a filter for iOS. Okay, and now you see there is a filter for Microsoft Intune company portal. It's assigned, looks good. So this iOS store app should be added over here. If it is added over here, then it will show up over here. And if it is showing up over here, you have to select the Microsoft Intune store application. Remember to choose the store app and not VPP, because we are emulating a use case wherein the company portal application was not there in the device and the end user ends up downloading the company portal application from the app store. So just selecting that, clicking on OK, next, and then in the configuration designer setting format, I'm going to select enter XML data, and the data that we are going to enter here comes from this documentation. Just Google with this link. This is the name of the documentation: add app configuration policy for managed iOS, iPadOS devices. And when you scroll down, you have the XML that you need to use over here under the heading configure company portal app for AD devices. Just going to copy it from here, just going to come over here and then paste it. And then next, now we have to assign it. So now let's very quickly create a group. And right now our devices are getting enrolled using this enrollment profile, right? So if I go to assigned devices, you see the device over here. This is the name of the enrollment profile. So I'm going to create a group which is going to contain devices which are enrolled using this enrollment profile. So very quickly, just create this. Let's do a new group. Let's call this iOS app config ADE. And then the membership is going to be dynamic device. The query is going to be when the enrollment profile name equals, we already know how to do this. Just make sure that the name of the profile here is correct. And then it gets added, it is saved. Let's copy the name here. and then let's assign the app configuration policy to the same group. I'm selecting the group from here, next, and then create. The app configuration policy has been assigned. Now the suggestion is assigning the store app also, so that if the end user does not install the store app manually, it still gets to the device, right? We are going to emulate a scenario wherein the end user downloads and installs the store application manually. However, just for parity's sake, let me add the application over here. Let me add the group over here. However, we are not going to wait for the application to be pushed from Intune. Review and save and save. We are all good. Now we are going to emulate a scenario wherein first the company portal app is not present, and then I'm going to manually download the company portal app. We have already pushed the app configuration policy to the group. So now let's quickly switch back to the device and then see what the difference in behavior is right now.
All right, so back at the device, did the system reset? Now setting up the device again very quickly. Okay, so we are back at the device. The device is now enrolled, and you can see the company portal application has not come down to the device yet. I just want the app configuration policy to come down and the device to get enrolled, and then we are going to install the company portal application manually. However, for me to install the company portal application manually as the end user, I'll have to set up the Apple ID. So let's do that real quick. Okay, so the Apple ID is added over here. Let me now go to the App Store and the Apple ID should show up over there. Continue, turn this off, go to the settings. Okay, you see my Apple ID is added over here. Let me show you guys once again. By going into home, you see that company portal application right now is not present in the device. The device is enrolled. I can see it at the portal as well. And I can see the enrollment profile also. Let me just show it to you guys. So over here you see the enrollment profile is present and everything is looking good. Now let me install the company portal application manually. Okay, so company portal is installed. I am still at the App Store. So let me launch the company portal application from here itself. Okay, very quickly, let's pay close attention and let's see the magic now. I hope it works. So just doing a OK here, doing a allow, and over here it's by looking at the screen itself, we know that the app configuration policy has come down, and there is something different, because if you guys remember, earlier when the app configuration policy was not there, then there were around 4 or 5 steps, and one of the steps it was saying that we need to download the management profile and install it. However, it is no longer telling us that, and there are only 2 steps. So let's click on begin and let's see what happens. It's going to run some kind of check. Earlier, remember, it was telling us to download the MDM profile, telling us to install it, but when we were trying to install it, we were not able to install it because the MDM profile was already there in the settings. But this time it did not tell us to install a MDM profile or even did not download a duplicate MDM profile. It directly came to the category screen. If I select a category and click on continue, over here you see that both are green checks, and if I click on done, the device is now ready. And this looks like just a normal device which has company portal pushed to it via VPP or via the ADE profile itself. So this is the difference that I wanted to highlight in the flow. And as I said, guys, this difference is only applicable if you are using setup assistant in the authentication method and you are not pushing company portal application as per your ADE profile, and the end user is downloading the company portal profile later on, or you as an admin later on decide that the end user should download the company portal application so that the device is already registered, so that you can make use of MFA and all its features. For that, if the app configuration policy is targeted like I just demonstrated, then everything is going to work.
And this, as I said, is a recent change. Okay, now let's switch back to the portal.
Okay, so switching back into the portal, you can see naming convention and everything looks good. I just want to show you guys that if I go into the device and click on app configuration, now the app configuration over here also shows has succeeded, which it should, because obviously the XML was applied, because we saw that the prompts that were earlier coming regarding downloading and installing the management profile over and over again in a loop, they no longer happen. And just remember guys, just wanting to highlight this app configuration XML that we have sent. Intune also sends the same app configuration XML. When does it send it? Whenever we are pushing any DEP, any ADE profile which has company portal in it as the mode of authentication, like over here we have company portal in it, therefore the company portal application is going to come down to the device, right? We don't have to manually push the company portal, irrespective of whether we are using VPP or not. So in these cases, along with company portal, Intune also pushes the same app configuration profile which we are manually pushing in this case. The reason why we have to push manually the app configuration profile is because Intune did not push the company portal application to begin with. If Intune had pushed the company portal application like it is in this case with the ADE profile, it would have pushed the app configuration also. Since the user is manually downloading the company portal application, therefore the admin has to manually push the app configuration profile. So just coming back very quickly to our deck here, we have already seen that before the app configuration profile was applied, there were these 4 things that were showing up. And when we were doing next, the profile was not getting profile was not getting installed because there was already a MDM profile present, a management profile present. However, after we sent the app configuration policy, then we saw that there were only these 2 settings that were shown in the company portal app that the end user had downloaded from the app store, and now everything was good, and there were no issues, and the user UD association and everything happened fine. The device got Azure registered also, and there were no errors with MDM profile installation because a new installation of MDM profile was not triggered. Again, one more thing, just wanted to highlight, as per our official documentation, if this is your setup, then the recommendation is whenever you are making a new profile, install company portal, set this to yes, so that Intune via the ADE profile pushes the company portal application as well as the app config policy, so that you don't have to do all this app configuration policy drama. But for the existing devices which have already got this ADE profile, for that you will have to do this drama of creating an app configuration profile and pushing this XML.
All right, so we are back at the portal, and the next thing we are going to see is ADE enrollment without user affinity. So I'm just going to create a profile for that real quick. Obviously, the user affinity dropdown is going to be enroll without user affinity. Supervised is going to be yes. Logged enrollment is going to be yes. Now there is an option which says shared iPad. Now you have an option of setting this to either yes or no. If I set this to yes, then you see there are a lot of other options that comes up. So this is the official documentation of shared iPad, and it talks about what are the various things that happens when you do a shared iPad scenario. And this is supposed to be used when the iPad or the iOS device is shared amongst one or more employee or student. And what it does is it creates predefined number of user partitions on the device. The user partitions ensure that each user's apps, data, and preferences are stored separately on the device. So if you allow it, these partitions can be backed up to the iCloud as well. However, you need to remember that for us to make use of this shared iPad scenario, we need to federate our organization's Azure AD instance in Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager. So that federation needs to be done beforehand. Only then you can make use of this shared iPad scenario. Otherwise, you have to set this to no, sync with other computers, allow all, and await final config. Let's say yes, and let's apply a device naming template as well. Just have to do next. Looks all good. We can go ahead and assign this. The device is all assigned. We can now switch back to the device and see the end device behavior. All right, so we are back at the device, going to go through this very quickly. All right, there you go. It was pretty much straightforward. Didn't take a lot of time. And in this case, the end user is not supposed to go to the App Store and download the company portal application. Neither will the company portal application be automatically pushed to the device, which means that the device is not going to be Azure AD registered, which means that we are not going to make use of the awesome features of Azure. Now let's quickly switch back to the portal and see how the device's record looks like.
Alright, so back at the portal, and here you see the device. The device has followed the naming convention that we wanted to. It's showing as compliant managed, but the primary user is not there since it's a device without user affinity. Now, the last thing that I want to show you guys is another profile that we have for shared devices. So until now, what we have done is we have, for without user affinity, we have seen the default one, and we have discussed that if we want to use the one with shared iPad mode, for that we would have to do the federation. Then the next one is Azure AD shared mode. So let's very quickly take a look over that. So let's make a profile for that. User affinity is going to be enrolled with Azure AD shared mode, and over here it says that if you want to make use of shared mode, you will have to, after you create this profile, you will have to create a device configuration profile as well, and push Microsoft Authenticator app as required with a valid VPP token. We are going to do all of that. Let's do the rest of the configuration first. Logged enrollment is going to be yes. Sync with all of the computer, let's do yes. Await final config. Naming convention, let's put this in. Okay, looks all good. Now let me quickly bring up the documentation that we have for shared devices, and let me expand this. So this is the document we have: set up enrollment of devices in shared mode. And if you scroll down, it tells you that you have to create a device configuration profile. So first, this is the AD profile that we have created. This is the group that you have created. And over here, you have to create a device configuration profile. And this configuration profile is for creating a single sign-on app extension policy for shared devices. How do we create this? Let's do that very quickly. So in the other tab, I am going to go to devices, and then let's go to iOS and iPadOS, and let's create a configuration profile. Let's do a new policy. Policy type is going to be templates. This is going to be device feature. Let's do a create. Let's call this ADE SSO extension shared device. And then we are going to go to single sign-on app extension, and then the app extension type is going to be Azure AD. Enabled shared device mode is going to be yes. And as per the documentation, we have put in the key as device underscore registration, type is string, and the value is device underscore registration. Device registration. This is what we have in the documentation over here as well. These are the three values that we are putting in. And just for the sake of it, let's configure the wallpaper as well. So over here you have the option of choosing what wallpaper display location you want to put in, and let me just upload a wallpaper from my desktop if I have any. Okay, there you go. Alright, so this is the wallpaper that I have. Next, and now I have to assign this to a device group. Now for me to assign this to a device group, I have to create a device group. So let's create a dynamic device group real quick. And the way we are going to create a dynamic device group is we are going to make use of the name. So let's pick up this name and then create a group with this name. So I'm very quickly going to go to groups and create this. Let's quickly assign a device to this now. So our group is created. Now we just need to assign our device configuration profile to that same group. So this is our device configuration profile that has been assigned. Now the last thing that I need to do is assign the authenticator application. So for that I am going to go to all apps and then put in a filter for iOS, and then the app type is going to be iOS volume purchase program, and then going to search for authenticator. This is the authenticator application. I'm just going to go to the properties and I'm going to very quickly assign this to the same group. Okay, all done. So we are all done now. We have created the ADE profile for Azure AD shared mode and assigned it to the device. We have created a group and we have assigned the Microsoft Authenticator app via VPP to that group, as well as we have assigned the device configuration profile to that group. Now let's quickly switch over to the device and then see the end device behavior.
All right, so back at the device, and as usual, let's go through this very quickly. And that's pretty much it. As you can see, the device is enrolled. Let me quickly go to the portal and run a quick sync of the device so that the device configuration policy and the application that we have pushed, which is Microsoft Authenticator via VPP, comes down to this device fast. Okay, and there you go. At the background, we can see the Authenticator app is also installing, as well as the wallpaper and the lock screen image. When I lock and unlock the device, you can see the same image is coming up in both the places. Um, and that is pretty much it. I mean, I just had to wait for a couple of minutes to run a sync, and the Authenticator app, as well as the SSO configure, the device configuration policy for SSO that I have pushed down, came down to the device. And there you go. When I launch the Authenticator app, it by itself says that shared device mode is designed for this purpose, and shared device mode is configured. I have an option of sending the logs to Microsoft if there is a need. So yeah, this so far looks good, and this mode is supposed to be used if it's a shared device. I'm planning on doing a dedicated nugget on shared device mode scenarios for all the operating systems, wherein we'll dive into this in more detail. All right, guys, so I'm back at the portal, and over here, as you can see, the naming convention and everything looks good. If I go into device configuration, I see the device configuration profile has successfully come down to the device. If I go to managed apps, the Microsoft Authenticator app is also showing. So let me bring my deck back, and I believe that we have had a chance to see almost all the different enrollment methodologies that we wanted to. We saw the Azure AD shared mode, we saw the one with user affinity, we saw the ones with without user affinity as well as with user affinity. And we also discussed what is the recommended way from Microsoft for enrolling any of these devices. Now, one thing that I forgot to talk about very quickly is the default profile that we can set for enrollments. So if we go to iOS, iPad OS, and if we go to our AD token, over here you see there is a setting called set default profile. So think of this set default profile as the default, if you would say, a default group policy that comes down everywhere. What I mean by that is, if we are going over here, we are seeing that there are so many profiles that are created. Now let's say that there is a new device that you purchase, which is assigned to the MDM server in ABM or ASM, that syncs and comes down to Intune. Now you have two options. Either you assign a profile from here to that device. That is what we have been doing until now. Or you can set something like set default profile. So over here, when I select a set default profile, I can see in the drop down an option of all the profiles that I have created at the backend. Now, what this does is, if you are not explicitly assigning any profile to any device, then by default, the profile that you select over here is going to be applied. What I mean by that is, let me just repeat that again. We have a profile over here, and then we have a device over here, right? Let's say that you have not assigned any profile to this device, then the default profile is going to come down. However, if you have assigned any profile to any specific device, then that default profile is going to be overridden by the profile that we manually assign from this list. So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope in this tutorial we were able to understand what exactly ADE is, what is the background flow that is happening most importantly during an ADE enrollment, because that is going to be the basis of doing any kind of troubleshooting. I hope we understood what are the various enrollment methodologies, which one to use and when. And in the next nugget of part 2, I'm going to in detail talk about Apple configurator. But for now, I hope that we have understood level 150 of what ADE is, how it relates to something like Autopilot or zero touch enrollment from Android, which pretty much does the same thing, how to set it up, how to troubleshoot it, and how to get started with it. So I hope that this has been informative. I would like to thank you for viewing. This is your friend Saurabh Sarkar signing off.